Chapter 1014. As the eldest Madame Chan Yu Yin Jun was trying her best to cover up all flaws at the huge teleportation array within the Ardent Fire City, Wang, a distorted black hole-like maelstrom appeared within the teleportation array. Two figures walked out from within. They were both wearing black robes with golden edges. They were looking in the direction of the Marquis Dom. Who would have thought that this lineage of Marquis Ardent Fire would actually produce a child who is a void god at birth? How rare. Before this, our Ying Shan clan has only produced two such geniuses, right? Both of them broke through to the Unity realm very quickly. One of them reached the Primal Chaos realm and opened the Nine-Dragon Marquis Dom. The other might be slightly weaker, but he has crossed through the God Yuan Palace 6th level. These two elders that came from the Ying Shan clan chatted with a smile. They were relatively envious, because having such a formidable birth represented a powerful bloodline. The stronger the bloodline, the easier it would be to cultivate. Those with weaker bloodlines would feel like looking at flowers in a fog when they looked at their bloodline. It was blurry, and those with dense and powerful bloodlines would have their bloodlines clearly visible. The difficulty of cultivation would be 100 to 1,000 times easier. South, the two of them directly teleported over. The Ardent Fire City was too big, and flying was too slow. The two elders from the ancestral family were sent over, and one of them could teleport. Very soon, the two of them arrived at the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom. Two elders from the ancestral family, please come over. A voice sounded by their ears. The array suppressing the two elders from the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom was temporarily dispelled. Grandpa Marquis. The two elders from the ancestral family immediately teleported over. It was too easy to recognize. The maelstrom light pillar of the world energy was still conspicuous. That indistinct golden light could also be discerned. When the two elders from the ancestral family rushed over Marquis Ardent Fire, the elders from the Marquis Dom, and many other Ying Shan clan disciples with relatively high statuses and honored guests were watching from the surrounding. This courtyard was simply too small, and they could not fit everyone even if they descended. Two elders from the ancestral family. Since you have come from afar, please wait a moment. This child will be coming out in a while. The red-robed male Marquis Ardent Fire stood by the side with a smile. Many people had already gathered around, and they were all of high statuses. Those of low statuses did not dare to approach. The first Madame, Chan Yu Yin Jun, was also at the back of the crowd in midair. She saw that the elders and Master Ho were looking at the round red meatball with anticipation. She could not help but grit her teeth. We have to fix the last flaw as well. Buzz. Her face paled slightly before returning to normal. Time seemed to pass very slowly. At this moment, all the higher-ups in the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom were looking downwards in anticipation. Rong Xinglan had long regained her rationality. She and her daughter Ying Shan, she were also looking forward. Wah! The round red meatball suddenly split open, revealing a child with red lips and white teeth. The child was only wearing a thin, skin-tight shirt. The aura emitted by this child was shockingly that of a void god. One could see the child who was only wearing a thin, skin-tight shirt. He was barefooted and had red lips and white teeth. He directly leaped in front of Rong Xinglan and knelt down. This child greets mother. Donghua Shui Ying kneeled willingly because he could sense what was happening outside through the void when he was in his mother's stomach. He had seen how his mother and sister fought against Manager Tian and how his mother wept in despair. He could feel that his mother treated him more important than her life. Their feelings were mutual, and Donghua Shui Ying respected this mother of his. As for that father of his in this life, he had been in the stomach for 15 years, yet that father had never come to see him even once. Currently, he did not even know his father, much less talk about feelings. Good. Rong Xinglan excitedly pulled her child up. Seeing the chubby little arm, Rong Xinglan felt her heart melting. Her face was brimming with a smile. That was a joy that came from the bottom of her heart. This child is really filial. An elder from the ancestral family chuckled in midair. Marquis Ardent Fire also nodded with a smile. The group of higher-ups in the Marquis Dom began praising him at that moment. They did not find Dongbua Shui Ying's intelligence strange at all. After all, even the more ordinary infants from the Yingshan clan had been in the womb for a few decades when they were born. Hence, their intelligence was extraordinary. Marquis Ardent Fire even announced with a clear laugh, "Rongxing Lan, have you given this son of yours a name?" "Not yet," Rongxing Lan answered. Her status was low, and she was not qualified to choose a name previously. Usually, it would be Yingshan Lai who did. "I've given myself a name." The child in her embrace leaped down. He was not afraid of the many cultivators in the sky. His voice was clear and reverberated in the surroundings. "I'm called Snow Eagle." "Snow Eagle? Yingshan Snow Eagle?" Marquis Ardent Fire chuckled in the sky. "This little fellow is extraordinary. He knows how to give himself a name the moment he was born. His talent is extraordinary. Naturally, he is different from ordinary people." The tall and thin ancestral family elder praised. Another slightly plump ancestral family elder chuckled as he took out a strange palm-sized golden weapon that looked like a hook. He directly threw it to Dongbua Shui. "Little fellow Yingshan Snow Eagle, the few of us have come under orders to hand over the Yingshan Golden Order." The child extended his hand and caught this Yingshan Golden Order. He felt slightly curious and puzzled. "This Yingshan Golden Order is something only the most important disciples of my Yingshan clan are qualified to receive. It is personally bestowed by old ancestor." Marquis Ardent Fire chuckled. "Once you receive this command token, your status in my marquisdom will be equivalent to an elder within the marquisdom. You can even visit the ancestral family and read through the many scriptures there. The ancestral family will also send over many treasures." The surrounding crowd in Madeira were filled with envy. Because the marquisdom was too big and the number of cultivators was too exaggerated, they were naturally divided into grades. The members of the marquisdom were divided into 6 classes. Most of the servants were practically at the lowest 6th class. Some of the madams who had never given birth before were also at the lowest 6th class. For instance, Rongxing Lan had given birth to a child before, and Yingshan Shiyu was a direct descendant. The two of them were at the 5th class. The 5th class was still very low. After all, they could be ranked at the 5th class just by being the leader of a servant. Even though the two of them had a higher status than the servants, they did not have the authority and could not control the servants. That was why that female servant disdained them. The 4th class meant that the servants had a very high status. Like Manager Tian, he was considered at the 4th class. Members of the marquisdom from the 4th class to the 6th class were the lower 3 classes. The 3rd class to the 1st class were the upper 3 classes. Only those in the upper 3 classes were qualified to represent the Ardent Fire marquisdom. The disciples of the Ardent Fire marquisdom. Only those in the upper 3 classes were qualified to call themselves aristocratic clan disciples when they walked outside. For instance, Yingshan Shi was just a true god. When she walked outside, she was just an ordinary commoner and was not qualified to call herself an aristocratic clan disciple. After all, the aristocratic clan had existed for many years, and their bloodlines were numerous. If one was not outstanding enough, he would naturally not represent the aristocratic clan. Aristocratic clan disciples had many special privileges too. These privileges were set by the laws of the Southern Cloud Nation. Yingshan Golden Order? Equivalent to an elder? Furthermore, there are many special privileges in the ancestral family. Many people were filled with envy. The eldest Madame Chanyu, Yin Zhen, felt complicated. She was also an aristocratic clan disciple and was at the God Yuan Palace 4th level. Furthermore, she was married to Yingshan Lai Hu and was considered a part of the Yingshan clan. Only after operating for many years did she rise to the 2nd class. She was still 1 class away from this newborn child. Even though it was just a step, this step was huge. Because in the entire marquisdom, other than Grandpa Marquis, there were only a total of 15 elders. In other words, there were only these 15 elders who had the same status as this child. Rongxing Lan, you have contributed greatly and will be promoted to the 2nd class in the marquisdom. Marquis Ardent Fire chuckled. A mother's status would depend on her son's status. This was also the rule of the marquisdom. Many thanks, Grandpa Marquis. Rongxing Lan was incomparably excited. In the blink of an eye, she had reached the sky in a single step. In the future, she would have groups of servants and a large group of guards and guests when she went out. A hunchbacked elder from the marquisdom said, Rongxing Lan, how long have you been pregnant for? I have been pregnant for 15 years. Rongxing Lan immediately answered. The gestation period of every baby would be recorded. For a proud child like Dongbua Shuiying, it was even more so. 15 years? Marquis Ardenfire was startled. Why is it so short? The two elders from the ancestral family felt puzzled too. It is too short. Just 15 years? Almost all the experts from the marquisdom felt startled. Because the more outstanding the child was, the longer he would stay in the womb. This was practically common knowledge. If Dongbua Shuiying stayed in the womb for 300 to 400 years, they would not be surprised. Instead, they were startled that he only stayed in the womb for 15 years. Originally, I wouldn't have come out so quickly. A clear voice sounded. At that moment, the gazes of all the higher-ups landed on the body of Dongbua Shuiying. Looking at this barefooted child with rosy lips and white teeth, this child was slightly angered. I was enjoying myself comfortably in my mother's womb when I heard someone called Manager Tian forcefully pouring a poisonous medicinal liquid into my mother's mouth. My mother could not resist against it, even with her life on the line. I could sense everything happening outside and knew that something was amiss. That was why I immediately cut off my connection with the womb, forcing me to be born prematurely. If you don't believe me, you can check for yourself. What? Forced to be born prematurely? Poisonous liquid? Everyone present was greatly startled. Marquis Ardenfire's expression turned ashen. There were even elders who reversed time to investigate. Even though they could not see the scene of Manager Tian being forced by the time-space interference, it was precisely because of this interference that made things abnormal. Furthermore, the reversal of time allowed them to ascertain that Dongbua Shuiying had only been pregnant for 15 years. Indeed, it has only been 15 years. To be able to nurture such a talent in 15 years, yet he was forced to be born in advance. If he was nurtured normally for hundreds or thousands of years, his bloodline would probably be much denser and he would be at the Unity realm at birth. The hearts of everyone present trembled, and there were even quite a few of them who were gritting their teeth. He was born at the Unity realm? In the entire Southern Cloud Nation, those who were born at the Unity realm could be counted with one's fingers. All of them were protected and nurtured with all their might, and all of them could easily reach the primal chaos realm. All of them were extraordinary, and there were as many as 2 conferred kings. How dare you? The tall and thin elder from the ancestral family furiously roared. My Ying Shan clan has such a proud son of heaven, yet he was forced to give birth in just 15 years. Otherwise, little fellow Ying Shan Snow Eagle's future would be much brighter. Marquis Ardenfire, there is actually someone in your marquisdom who dares to violate the rules of my Ying Shan clan. Marquis Ardenfire was similarly furious. Where's Ying Shan Lihu? Where's this father? Marquis Ardenfire was furious. He suddenly swept his gaze across the place, yet he could not see his son at all. He should still be in the Misty Cloud restaurant, an old man at the side said in a low voice. Ying Shan Lai, who was weak, and he spent his time in places of pleasure. The true elites and higher-ups within the clan disdained to interact with him. Naturally, none would specially transmit a message to him. The child had already been born, yet the father was still enjoying himself in a place of pleasure. That was indeed a joke, but there were already 340 children, and Ying Shan Lai who did not care about it at all. Investigate for me. Investigate. Find out who exactly did it. Also, capture that fool Ying Shan Lai who back for me. The voice of Marquis Ardenfire reverberated in the sky. Nobody dared to make a sound. Chanyu Yinzhen felt her heart trembling. Chapter 10:15. The Misty Cloud Pavilion was the biggest money-squandering establishment in the entire Ardenfire city. Many aristocratic clan disciples and cultivators loved coming here. As long as one had enough cosmos crystals, The misty cloud pavilion would help them find even rarer treasures. On a sealed battle platform, two true god rulers were currently fighting. Their combat strength was great, and they could fight against void gods. And around the battle platform, there were many aristocratic clan disciples and powerful cultivators scattered around. Almost all of them brought along their servants and beautiful attendants. Even those powerful cultivators who came alone would have one or two beauties from the misty cloud pavilion pouring wine and serving them. Very soon, the battle ended. One won, and the other's body eventually crumbled and could no longer condense again. True gods could only be considered ordinary. Even Ying Shan Shiyu, who had the bloodline of an aristocratic clan, could only be considered a commoner because she was just a true god, much less those with worse backgrounds. They could only do the lowest of jobs. If they were lucky, they could live peacefully. If they were unlucky, they might offend a big character and lose their lives. Hence, those who were truly ambitious would do their best to become an expert. On the other hand, stepping onto the life and death arena was a path that was extremely risky, but also extremely rewarding. In every battle, one side would definitely die, while the surviving side would earn a large number of chaos gems. With resources, one's cultivation would naturally be much faster. Truly trash, wasting so much of my effort. He is completely useless. Ying Shan Lai Hu fiercely threw the cup in his hand. He gritted his teeth in anger. Prince Lai Hu, calm down. In a while, I'll help you find a good guest. He will definitely not be as useless as this trash. A beauty who was feeding him wine softly said, "Fur, you said this the previous time. Do you think I dare to believe you this time?" Ying Shan Lai Hu turned around. He lifted the chin of this beauty with his finger. Almost all the girls who came to serve in the Misty Cloud Pavilion had cultivated some bewitching techniques. Even powerful cultivators could not help but immerse themselves in this land of warmth. It was truly an enjoyment. Prince Lai Hu, rest assured, Fu will find him first. After finding him, you can go and have a look. Fu, it is really sad that you don't believe Fu at all. As Ying Shan Lai, who was flirting with the beauty, a plump male suddenly came walking on the cloud path. This plump male laughed heartily from afar. Prince Ying Shan Lai Hu, congratulations. Congratulations? Ying Shan Lai Hu was startled. He felt overwhelmed by the favor. Some aristocratic clan disciples and powerful cultivators in the surroundings were slightly startled because they recognized the person who came was the master of the Misty Cloud Pavilion. He was also a famous character in the entire Ardent Fire City, Chun Yufeng. Chun Yufeng's elder brother, Chun Yue, was one of the two big shots in the entire Ardent Fire City. The other giant was naturally Marquis Ardent Fire. Chun Yue managed the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace that was filled with experts. The number of experts in the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace was much higher than the Ardent Fire Marquis Dome because the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace represented the king. More importantly, the sleeping incarnation of the cosmos god protecting the Ardent Fire City was none other than the old ancestor of the Chunyu clan, Monarch Chunyu. That's right, the Chunyu clan was one of the 4 strongest clans in the Southern Cloud Nation. It was a clan that gave birth to a cosmos god. The Imperial family and the 3 great emperor clans were the 4 great clans. Comparatively speaking, the Yingshan clan was weaker by a level. That old mother Yingshan from the Yingshan clan was merely a conferred king. Hence, being the younger brother of Chun Yue, the person who managed the biggest money-squandering establishment in the Ardent Fire City, the Chun Yufeng, had an extremely high status. He could even sit on the same level as those elders from the Ardent Fire Marquisdom. Yingshan Lai, who was merely a true god ruler, was someone that the master of the Misty Rain Pavilion, Chun Yufeng, did not have to care about. Pavilion Master Chun Yu, are you congratulating me? Yingshan Lai, who also stood up. He was slightly overwhelmed by the favor. Don't you know? The plump Chun Yu Pavilion Master widened his eyes in astonishment. Your Ardent Fire Marquisdom is currently having a joyous matter. The wife of you, Yingshan Lai, who, Rong Xinglan, has given birth to a child for you, and he is a void god at birth. Yingshan Lai, who did not care much when he heard about the birth of a child. But the moment he heard the 3 words void god, he became stunned. A void god was not considered much. But for a newborn to be a void god, that was terrifying. This represented an incomparably frightening and dense bloodline. My child, Ying Lai, who widened his eyes. What? The child of Ying Lai, who is a void god at birth? Is this real or fake? How could this be possible? The surrounding aristocratic clan disciples broke into an uproar when they heard that. The majority of them were sent over by the aristocratic clan to the Ardent Fire City to handle some businesses. Their statuses within the clan were not considered high, but they were not any weaker than Ying Lai, who. Now that they heard that trash Ying Lai, who actually gave birth to a child who was a void god at birth, they were stunned. My child is a void god at birth? The child of me, Ying Lai, who? Ying Lai, who was extremely excited. He once wanted to become an expert like his father, but his talent and comprehension ability were lacking. He was also a child of his father when his father was weaker, and his bloodline was weak too. He could not cultivate and could not become a void god. Hence, he had long given up on himself and relied on his identity to enjoy life. Rong Xinglan, Ying Lai, who recalled. That was the woman whom he snatched into the Marquis Dom because of her beauty. Previously, she gave birth to a daughter named Ying Shiyu, and he had never seen her before. He wanted to transmit a message to Rong Xinglan, but he discovered that he did not record down the communication imprint of Rong Xinglan. Madam, Ying Lai, who immediately transmitted a message to his eldest wife, Chan Yu Yin Jun. Xinglan gave birth to a child for me, and he's a void god at birth. Yes, you should hurry back. Grandpa Marquis has become angry. Chan Yu Yin Jun gave a simple reply. At this moment, she was not in the mood to talk too much with her husband. Ha ha ha! Ying Lai, who suddenly guffawed. His laughter was clear and resounded across this enormous palace. The son of Ying Lai, who is a void god at birth, Brother Lai, who, congratulations. Brother Lai, who, admirable. Some of his scoundrels and those who originally looked down on Ying Lai, who were congratulating him at this moment. Ying Lai, who guffawed. He turned around and waved his robe. Go. Let's return to the Marquis Dom. Yes, master. The group of servants behind him responded. Their voices were much louder than before. The servants were all in high spirits. Who? They left the misty cloud pavilion. Ying Lai, who sat on the carriage with his head held high. The servants were also waiting on the carriage. The mutated beasts pulled the carriage across the sky at high speed towards the Marquis Dom. Just the time taken to brew a cup of tea. South, a gray-robed old man appeared in midair. Clearly, he was currently teleporting over. The moment he saw Ying Lai, who, he shouted, Ying Lai, who, Grandpa Marquis has asked you to hurry and meet him. Follow me. It's Elder Tian? Good. Ying Lai, who was very passionate. The gray-robed old man had a cold expression. He grabbed Ying Lai, who, and directly teleported over. Before Ying Lai, who was taken away, he even ordered, bring this treasured carriage of mine back. No, I'll have to change this carriage when I return. Ying Lai, who was already thinking of a better life in the future. So, under the teleportation, very soon, the gray-robed old man brought Ying Lai, who back to the Marquis Dom. They arrived at the core where Grandpa Marquis stayed. Wait here. The gray-robed old man brought Ying Lai, who down. What is going on? Ying Lai, who looked ahead. The surrounding protectors all had cold expressions. The atmosphere was even slightly stifling. Even the gray-robed old man did not smile. Isn't it a joyous occasion? What is going on? Why is it so frightening? Ying Lai, who shrunk his head as he looked around him. He rarely came to the place of his father. After all, he was not qualified to come if his father did not summon him. Elder Tian, where is that son of mine? Ying Lai, who could not help but ask. He was the son of a void god at birth. Currently, he was slightly vexed that he did not visit him more often. But no matter what, he was still his son. Prince Snow Eagle is currently together with Grandpa Marquis. The gray-robed old man said. Suddenly, a roar came from the distant palace hall. Capture that venomous woman Chan Yu Yin Jun for me. Ying Lai, who was frightened by this roar, to the point his legs turned soft. Chan Yu Yin Jun? Wasn't she his wife? Chapter 10:16. Within the palace hall, the red-haired male Marquis Ardent Fire sat at the highest position. By his sides were the two elders from the ancestral family and the elders from the marquisdom. Naturally, there was also Rong Xinglan, who was hugging her son. Rong Xinglan was slightly trembling. After all, she felt her legs turning soft after sitting together with Grandpa Marquis and the elders. And Dongbua Shuiying could only forcefully endure it. With his heart realm, it was not hard for him to act like a child. It was just slightly awkward. I'll endure it for now, Dongbua Shuiying thought. Let that fool in. Marquis Ardent Fire glanced at Ying who was waiting obediently outside the palace hall. Even though this son was slightly trash, he was still a child he had when he was weak. Marquis Ardent Fire was very sentimental and had personally arranged for a good marriage for his son. He had also transferred many resources to his son. Even though his son's bloodline was weak, he still hoped that his son could rise. It's a pity that this son had always been enjoying himself. Marquis Ardent Fire was slightly disappointed. "Amen, this is that father of mine?" Dongbua Shuiying also saw the middle-aged male who entered. Facing the atmosphere within the palace hall, he could not help but bend his waist slightly. "You stand there for me," Marquis Ardent Fire roared. "Yes." Ying who did not dare to disobey. He obediently stood there without uttering a word. But he could not help but turn towards that woman sitting by the side and the child in her embrace. That child was currently observing him without the slightest bit of reverence. I am his father, yet he dares to look at me like this? I must teach him a good lesson. No, I can't defeat him. He is a void god at birth. Ying who suddenly felt bitter in his heart. I'm afraid the protectors and servants arranged by the marquisdom for him will be much stronger than mine. He is merely a child. I am ultimately his father. In the future, as long as I coax him more, he will definitely become closer to me. Ying who planned inwardly. The treasures he will obtain will definitely be much more than mine. By then, I'll be able to enjoy myself endlessly. If one were to say that he still had the fighting spirit to cultivate in the past, but after being corroded by the long years of enjoyment, he no longer had any ambition. Phew! A figure was thrown into the palace hall. It was none other than the red-robed girl Chan Yu-Yin-jun. At this moment, Chan Yu-Yin-jun fell down in a sorry state. She looked up and saw Marquis Ardent Fire sitting high above. She saw the elder from the ancestral family, the elder from the marquisdom, and that lowly servant Rong Xinglan who was carrying a child. Master Marquis. Chan Yu-Yin-jun hurriedly stood up. She was extremely respectful. No matter how arrogant she was, she had to behave herself at this moment. You are truly daring. You even dare to violate the rules of the Ying clan. Marquis Ardent Fire coldly said, You actually dared to force a pregnant woman of my Ying clan to drink the poisonous medicinal liquid, causing the child with the most extraordinary bloodline to be born prematurely. He was born in just 15 years. He became a void god in 15 years. If he were to continue nurturing normally, not only him, the two elders of the Zone clan and the surrounding elders of the Marquis Manor were all staring at Chan Yu-Yin-jun in anger. The stronger the family, the higher the status of a member of the family. This Chan Yu-Yin-jun had caused the talented Ying Snow Eagle to be unable to stay in the womb for a long period because of her. If she were to stay for a few hundred years, her bloodline would be even denser, and her potential would be much higher. It was all because of this venomous woman. Poisonous medicinal liquid, born in just 15 years? Ying Shanlai, who stared at Chan Yu-Yin-jun with wide eyes. How could this be? Why was this madam of his so daring? Even though he, Ying Shanlai, who had many women, strictly speaking, he only had a single wife, Chan Yu-Yin-jun. This was a marriage that his father, Marquis Ardent Fire, sought for him. It was a genuine betrothal gift, a formal marriage, and a banquet was held. Chan Yu-Yin-jun was also a disciple from an aristocratic family, and she was at the Unity Realm. Hence, he would usually feel short of breath when facing his wife. As for other women, many of them were directly snatched over, and their statuses were low. Within the marquisdom, those women were usually at the lowest 6th grade, similar to the female servants. Only by giving birth to a child could their statuses rise. Hence, Ying Shanlai, who did not care about those women at all. They were merely used by him to vent his emotions. His feelings towards those women could not even compare to Fu from the Misty Cloud Pavilion. He would frequently pamper Fu. Instead, it was the several hundred women of his that he rarely met. His wife actually did such a thing? Ying Shanlai, who did not dare believe it. No, I didn't. Chanyu Yinjun anxiously said, Grandpa Marquis, please investigate clearly. Ever since Yinjun left the Chanyu clan and married into the Yingshan clan, she has always been careful and did not dare to violate the rules of the Yingshan clan. The matter regarding the poisonous medicinal liquid is unrelated to me. There must be someone who wants to destroy the future genius disciple of my Yingshan clan. Hence, he sent that Manager Tian and framed me. I am innocent. Manager Tian should be killed by you, right? Marquis Ardenfire looked down at Chanyu Yinjun. I discovered that a servant of his dared to scheme against me. That was why I killed him out of anger. Chanyu Yinjun said. This was the only thing she did that was not clean. After all, the time was too short, and she could only act personally. Your hands are quite clean. Those who are involved in this matter are either dead or unaware of it. Marquis Ardenfire looked at Chanyu Yinjun. Yet you are still reluctant to admit it. There must be someone scheming behind the scenes, framing me. Chanyu Yinjun added. Marquis Ardenfire looked at her coldly. With a single order, he had already investigated everything that could be investigated. Even though there were treasures that could interfere with time-space, there were still experts within the Marquisdom who could disregard such interference and investigate the past. It's a pity that all clues were cut off. Those who died or disappeared. But the source of everything seemed to point toward Chanyu Yinjun. Only the matter regarding Manager Tian was done in the most direct manner. It was done by Chanyu Yinjun personally. If it was a weak disciple that was not noticed by Marquis Ardenfire, this matter would most likely be covered up. But after all, it was a talented existence like Yingshan Snow Eagle. 2 elders from the ancestral family. Marquis Ardenfire looked at the 2 elders by the side. This venomous woman still does not admit to it. All right, I'll have to trouble the 2 elders from the ancestral family to bring her back to the ancestral family to investigate her soul. All right, the 2 elders from the ancestral family nodded. Chanyu Yinjun turned pale. Who? The tall and thin elder from the ancestral family extended his hand. He directly enveloped Chanyu Yinjun with an unseen power before keeping her into his Eden treasure. Ying Shanlai, who looked at everything with shock. He did not dare to utter a word. Snow Eagle. Marquis Ardenfire turned to Dongbua Shuang. He revealed a grin at that moment and said with a chuckle, Grandpa Marquis. Dongbua Shuang immediately jumped down from the thigh of his mother. His voice was clear. Seeing this chubby little child in front of him, Marquis Ardenfire's mood became great. He chuckled. I've arranged a protector captain for you. He will definitely protect you well. Saying that, Marquis Ardenfire looked outside the palace. A gray-robed old man immediately walked in. This is Elder Tian Yi. Other than me, he will only listen to your orders. Marquis Ardenfire said. Prince Snow Eagle. The gray-robed old man respectfully greeted with a smile. Are you very formidable? Still all right. The gray-robed old man was not arrogant at all. He had completely immersed himself into the role of the protector captain. Marquis Ardenfire waved his hand again. At that moment, 2 black lights flew out. They landed on the ground and turned into 2 black mutated beasts. Their fur was glossy, and their eyes were blood red. They were emitting an aura at the Unity Realm. This pair are both Blackstream Cloud Wolves. This pair of Blackstream Cloud Wolves abruptly turned into human form. The 2 black-robed young men bowed at the same time. Greetings, Master. After a moment, everything was arranged properly. All right, go. Have a look at the residence I've arranged for the 2 of you. Also, remember to visit the Book Repository Pavilion and have a look. Tell me after you have decided on your path of cultivation. Marquis Ardenfire said. Yes, Grandpa Marquis. Dongbua Shuang said with a clear voice. Then I'll be leaving first. Let's go. Saying that, he called out to his mother. He directly sat on a black-stream cloud wolf. Elder Tion and the other black-stream cloud wolf also left. You should go back and reflect on yourself. Only then did Marquis Ardent Fire reprimand Ying who could only obediently acknowledge. He felt helpless in his heart since he came here only to be reprimanded. The two elders from the ancestral family within the palace hall also stood up. It is time for us to return. This little fellow snow eagle has extraordinary potential. This time, he was forced to be born prematurely, and it is truly painful. But this also represents that he has an extremely high potential. I'll report this to Old Ancestor, and by then, he will be bestowed with more precious treasures. Who knows, he might even be able to nurture his bloodline. The tall and thin elder from the ancestral family said. Amen. I'll also properly groom him. Marquis Ardent Fire nodded. The Ardent Fire Marquisdom occupied a huge area. It was simply a city within a city. Grandpa Marquis, the elders, and the countless disciples that had reproduced over 1 trillion years lived here. This Marquisdom was naturally huge, and there were many residences within. The residence that was arranged for Dongbua Shui-Ying was not any weaker than that of an elder. Wah! This little prince, Shui-Ying, who was doted on by everyone, was currently barefooted, happily running around the mansion. There were many servants within the residence, and a large group of protectors guarding the surroundings. His mother Rong Xinglan and sister Yingshan, she had also moved here. This residence was much bigger than Yingshan Lai Hu's and Chanyu Yanzhen's previous residences. Go, Grandpa Marquis asked me to go to the book repository pavilion. He mentioned that there are many books there, and I haven't seen them yet. Go. Dongbua Shui-Ying directly leaped up. He sat on the black-stream cloud wolf. Go. The two black-stream cloud wolves immediately rushed into the sky. Elder Tion easily followed behind. There was also a team of 9 protectors following behind. These 9 were personal guards, and all of them were at the Unity Realm. Hoo-hoo! They whistled as they flew above the Marquisdom. Some of the other disciples within the Marquisdom made way when they saw them. That is the little Prince Snow Eagle. It's him. He is a void god at birth. Look, even Elder Tion has become his protector. There were all sorts of discussions going on in the distance. Dongbua Shui-Ying did not care. At this moment, he was sitting on the back of the black-stream cloud wolf in a contented manner. His gaze landed on a towering tall building in the distance. That was the Book Repository Pavilion. The Book Repository Pavilion contained many absolute arts from the lowest level to the highest level. There were strict requirements to enter the higher levels, and the number of times one could enter was limited too. But as for Dongbua Shui-Ying, he could casually browse through the entire Book Repository Pavilion for as long as he wanted. This is my destination. Dongbua Shui-Ying was not as casual in his heart as he appeared on the surface. He attached great importance to this Book Repository Pavilion. Only by relying on this Book Repository Pavilion can I truly understand the distribution of organizations in the Realm Heart Great Land and the level of experts. Only by understanding everything can I determine a suitable path of growth for myself. Go, hurry up. The Blackstream Cloud Wolf directly rushed down towards that Book Repository Pavilion. The protectors by the entrance of the Book Repository Pavilion saw it from afar. Blackstream Cloud Wolf? Elder Tion? That is the little Prince Snow Eagle. The protectors by the entrance, and even the hidden experts, did not dare to obstruct him. They could only shout from afar, Prince Snow Eagle, you can enter, but the protectors cannot. Chapter 1017. Those protectors and hidden experts in the Book Repository Pavilion let out a sigh of relief because little Snow Eagle did not cause a ruckus. He directly leapt down from the Blackstream Cloud Wolf and entered the Book Repository Pavilion. Elder Tion, the 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves, and the 9 personal protectors were waiting outside. They felt reassured since the Book Repository Pavilion was an extremely safe place. Searching for books. The moment he entered, he saw many rows of bookshelves. There were many unique books placed on the bookshelves. They were emitting a mysterious aura. Dongbua Shui-Ying casually flipped through a few books the moment he entered. He then proceeded to flip through the other books. Looking here and there, he seemed to be reading every single book for a moment. Look, that is little Prince Snow Eagle. He is a void god at birth. Even though the information in these books is transmitted into his soul the moment he flipped through them, allowing him to understand them directly, the first level of the book repository pavilion is filled with the most ordinary books. But the first floor of the library is filled with the most ordinary books. Is he wasting his time here? Some of the disciples of the Marquis's mansion noticed this scene and chatted with each other via voice transmission. They did not dare to say it loudly for fear of angering this little Prince Snow Eagle who did not understand the ways of the world. They then continued flipping through the books. The first level was filled with miscellaneous books with low value. They were merely flipping through them for the sake of finding traces of ancient historical remains. Prince Snow Eagle, if you want to find cultivation books, you can go to the second or third level. The higher you go, the more valuable the books will be. At that moment, a disciple from the Marquis came over. He wanted to get familiar with the other party. Many thanks. Dong Buishui did not even raise his head. He casually waved his hand, and that disciple from the Marquis could only awkwardly retreat. He flipped through the books here and there. It did not seem like he was reading. Even though those who were paying attention to Dong Buishui in the dark felt speechless, they gradually became too lazy to care about him. There are too many books. There are all sorts of miscellaneous books, and even some fragmented cultivation techniques. Dong Buishui was slightly speechless. After all, the Marquis had existed for a long time. This book repository pavilion was naturally filled with a vast amount of books. Even with Dong Buishui's fast speed, he still spent more than 2 hours before he found the book he wanted. Found it. Dong Buishui flipped through a thick gray book, and his eyes lit up. The very first page caused his eyes to light up. This book described the various nations in the Realm Heart Great Land. After all, the Realm Heart Great Land was too big, and there were many nations. Even primal chaos giants had not been to many places before. There were even some powerful cultivators who were determined to traverse through every single place in the entire Realm Heart Great Land before recording it down for their juniors to read. Good heavens! Looking at it, Dong Buishui sucked in a breath of cold air. Cultivation in the Realm Heart Great Land far surpassed that in the primal chaos void. The bloodline cultivation system was the #1 system across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. There were many cultivators, and they could allow their children to be extremely powerful the moment they were born. The most outstanding children could even reach the Unity Realm at birth. A cosmos god could similarly have several hundred to 1,000 children. During cultivation, there were many absolute arts that complemented the bloodline cultivation system. As for the laws and profound mystery system, witchcraft cultivation system, ancient cultivation system, and other systems, they had long existed here. Moreover, they were much more developed. There were even those like Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chaime who could refine avatars. But it seemed to be a secret importation technique here too. Isn't this too powerful? Dong Buishui became more and more startled as he read. Realm Heart Great Land. It existed for a much longer period than the primal chaos void, and its foundation was naturally deeper. Furthermore, there was no mention of a great apocalypse. It had existed for an unknown period of time. One could only ascertain that there had been 2 wars of the ancient nations since ancient times. During the war, many nations were destroyed, causing the world to shatter. Many experts fell, and large batches of cosmos gods fell. And now, there were a total of more than 150 nations in the Realm Heart Great Land. This book did not specify the exact number, because some of the smaller nations would occasionally emerge or be destroyed. Hence, the number of nations would usually fluctuate. Deducing from this book, there should be close to 1,000 cosmos gods in the Realm Heart Great Land currently. Dong Buishui was startled as he read. Including those that fell in the history of the primal chaos void, there should only be more than 30 cosmos gods. And the Realm Heart Great Land was roughly 30 times that of the primal chaos void. That was normal. The six strongest nations have a long history. At the very least, they have dozens of cosmos gods, and at the very most, they have more than 100 cosmos gods. Dongbua Shuang sighed. The six great ancient nations should have more than 500 cosmos gods in total. The other 100 or so nations were comparatively weaker. For instance, the Southern Cloud Nation was considered a Tier 2 nation. It had at least 4 cosmos gods, and the Southern Cloud King was even more famous in the realm Heart Great Land. Those truly weak nations would usually only have 1 or 2 weaker cosmos gods. It was possible that a battle between cosmos gods would cause such a nation to fall apart. Yuan. Dongbua Shuang also saw the description of Yuan in the book. He could not help but tremble. Yuan. He was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert in the realm Heart Great Land. During the First and Second War of the Ancient Nations, the Yuan dynasty intervened, and the 6 great ancient nations stopped the war. Yuan constructed many God Yuan palaces scattered across the realm Heart Great Land. The God Yuan Palace was split into 10 levels. The God Yuan Palace is similar to the Star Pagoda. Dongbua Shuang vaguely deduced from the description. The God Yuan Palace and the Star Pagoda seem to divide strength the same, but the Star Pagoda has 9 levels and the God Yuan Palace has 10 levels. Furthermore, the research on cultivation techniques and combat secret techniques in the realm Heart Great Land far surpasses that of the primal chaos void. Dongbua Shuang felt slightly fearful. According to the description in the book, at the Unity Realm, if one merely researched on the laws and profound mysteries, they could reach the God Yuan Palace 7th level. But by relying on external forces and secret techniques, a Unity Realm expert could unleash a strength at the God Yuan Palace 8th level. Primal Chaos Realm experts usually reached the God Yuan Palace 9th level. But by relying on external forces and secret techniques, they could unleash a strength at the God Yuan Palace 10th level and could even suppress new cosmos gods. A Primal Chaos Realm expert could suppress a new cosmos god? Dongbua Shuang praised. At where he came from, the limit of the Primal Chaos Realm was the 9th level. It was amazing for one to survive against a cosmos god. To suppress them? Heavily injure them? That was a dream, but it was possible in the realm Heart Great Land. Even though this book introduced the various nations, 1/3 of it was praising the Southern Cloud Nation. The Southern Cloud Nation was indeed proud. Even though it was a Tier 2 nation, the religion created by the Southern Cloud King, the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion, was one of the 10 great religions with the most cultivators in the entire realm Heart Great Land. This also made the Southern Cloud King famous. Many cultivators from the 6 great ancient nations came here after much hardship just to listen to the teachings of the Southern Cloud King. So powerful, Dongbua Shuang felt his heart trembling as he read through the introduction of many absolute arts. Many absolute arts reduced the difficulty of cultivation. If one wanted to spread their religion, the difficulty of cultivation had to be low, and the cultivator had to be strong enough. Because the competition was too intense, some of the more complex absolute arts created by cosmos gods were not willing to learn. And the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion was famous for its rapid improvement in cultivation. It had even become one of the 10 great religions in the realm Heart Great Land. This is madness. This is madness. Shuang finally understood what Yuan meant by having a deeper foundation. How deep was it? His hometown was clearly much cruder in terms of cultivation. Chapter 1018. Dongbua Shuang searched for similar books within the book repository pavilion. Only after half a month did he stop reading. During this half a month, traces of historical remains, Scarlet Bull Palace treasures, there were many records of various historical remains in the book repository pavilion. But Dongbua Shuang could guess that most of them were useless. Those that were recorded should have long been known by others. In the 2 horrifying war of the ancient nations, many experts fell, including batches of cosmos gods. For instance, Scarlet Bull Palace Master was one of the most famous existences that died. Dozens of cosmos gods had died in his hands. Dongbua Shui Ying deduced that he should be at the level of Sacred Master. This made Dongbua Shui Ying understand that there were quite a few Sacred Masters who fell in the history of Realm Heart Great Land. There were probably even more who were still alive. Such a terrifying Realm Heart Great Land. Dongbua Shui Ying muttered inwardly. Even though it was an origin world like the primal chaos void, its foundation was much deeper. No wonder Yuan left behind an opportunity for his descendants to enter the Realm Heart Great Land. There should be more than one like me who reincarnated into the Realm Heart Great Land. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. Furthermore, it seems the smaller nations aren't too safe. Dongbua Shui Ying discovered the danger from this. The Southern Cloud Nation was located south of the 6 great ancient nations, Summer Wind Ancient Nation. South of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation all the way to the Black Prisonine Sea, there were a total of 4 nations and a huge lake. That Great Lake, it was a famous danger ground in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. The space here was chaotic. Previously, one could be at this location, yet with a single step, one could be 1 trillion kilometers away. Hence, this place became the hiding place for many great devils. Many devils from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation and other places in the Realm Heart Great Land gathered here too. Hence, this place was called the Black Devil Great Lake. The surrounding 4 nations were also known as the Black Devil 4 Nations. The Black Devil Great Lake was huge. It was not any smaller than a nation. There were many devils here and close to 10 cosmos gods. It was one of the most famous gathering places for devils across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. It was hard for the 6 great ancient nations to eliminate them. For instance, the Southern Cloud Nation had the Southern Cloud King. Hence, few devils from the Black Devil Great Lake came to cause trouble. Like the Fiery Zhao Nation, which was also one of the Black Devil 4 nations, even though they had 3 cosmos gods, they did not have the deterrence of Southern Cloud King. Hence, the Fiery Zhao Nation had practically become the backyard of the Black Devil Great Lake. Devils frequently wreaked havoc, and it was common for cities to be destroyed. Even the Fiery Zhao Emperor could only endure it, because the previous Fiery Zhao Emperor had died at the hands of a demon from the Black Devil Lake. Even though the Southern Cloud Nation was much better, there were still some battles with the Black Devil Great Lake. It's just that cosmos gods would not casually act. Danger lurks everywhere. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. Nations were fought for with strength. For instance, the Snowhook Nation of the Black Devil 4 Nations had a total of 5 cosmos gods. They were incredibly powerful, and the Snowhook King was an extremely crazy person. He was not willing to endure against the ancient nations, and had fought with 3 great ancient nations. Even though many died in his nation, the Snowhook King was sufficiently formidable in survival, allowing the nation to survive. Truly amazing. He fought with the 3 great ancient nations, yet a Tier 2 nation like the Snowhook Nation could still stand until now. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. Both the Southern Cloud King and Snowhook King were absolute overlords. But the Southern Cloud King was much gentler. He befriended various parties and spread his absolute art. He had many disciples in the 6 great ancient nations. Hence, the Southern Cloud Nation was comparatively the most stable. Dongbua Shui Ying placed down the scripture. He made his decision in his heart. From what I read these few days, the most suitable absolute art for me to cultivate is the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles. The Southern Cloud Sacred Religion was one of the 10 great religions in Realm Heart Great Land. One had to know that there were quite a few cosmos gods at the level of Sacred Master. Yet the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion could still be ranked among the 10 great religions. The reason why the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion was so famous was because of an absolute art created by the Southern Cloud King, the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles. It was so famous that most cultivators who were slightly stronger in the Realm Heart Great Land would know of this absolute art. In the Southern Cloud Nation, almost everyone knew of it. I have stimulated my void bloodline, and my accumulations in the void are quite deep. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. This Southern Cloud, 12 Sacred Styles, is a void-related absolute art. Void, time, and space were things that any cultivator could sense at a very early stage. As long as one was a true god, they could control time and space to a certain extent. To the realm Heart Great Land, which had many true gods, it was relatively easy to grasp a void-related absolute art. In addition to how powerful it was, one could easily grasp teleportation after cultivating it to a very deep stage. Hence, the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles had the innate potential to spread far and wide. Naturally, there were many void-related absolute arts too. The reason why it could spread far and wide was because it was relatively easy to cultivate. By the lake, Marquis Ardenfire was currently angling. Dongbua Shui Ying rode on the black stream Cloud Wolf and rapidly arrived. Elder Tian and the other personal guards were watching from afar. Dongbua Shui Ying leaped down and said, "Grandpa Marquis, I've read through quite a few books in the book repository pavilion and have decided on what I should cultivate." "Oh, what are you planning to cultivate?" The red-haired male Marquis Ardenfire chuckled at Dongbua Shui Ying. Southern Cloud, 12 Sacred Styles. Dongbua Shui Ying did not hesitate. "This is the most famous absolute art of my Southern Cloud Nation, and is also created by the king. It is suitable for those who are talented in the void." Marquis Ardenfire looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. The surrounding void around Dongbua Shui Ying abruptly fluctuated. Many void ripples appeared. Marquis Ardenfire's eyes brightened when he saw that. Since you have awakened a void-related bloodline, then there shouldn't be any problems. In my Southern Cloud Nation, there are many who cultivate the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles. Even though it is easy to cultivate, there are very few who could reach a profound realm. You should also focus on cultivating it. Fortunately, my marquisdom has quite a few cultivators who cultivate the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles. Dongbua Shui Ying naturally understood. He was from a Southern Cloud Nation, and it was he who activated this void bloodline. He originally had the accumulation of the void. That was why he chose to cultivate this absolute art. Even though this absolute art was relatively easy to cultivate, it was only relatively. The path of cultivation was ultimately bumpy. But to reach the Unity Realm 8th level, the difficulty would most likely be equivalent to reaching the Unity Realm 7th level back in the Primal Chaos Void. But Dongbua Shui Ying did not care. Even if he walked the path of the laws and profound mysteries, he was confident of reaching the 9th level. "Are you going to learn it now?" Marquis Ardenfire asked. "Yes." Dongbua Shui Ying immediately answered. "All right, let's go. I'll bring you to the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace." Marquis Ardenfire said. Marquis Ardenfire looked at the distant Elder Tian and the others. He ordered, "All of you should first return to the residence of Snow Eagle and wait. In a while, I'll personally send him back." "Yes, Grandpa Marquis." Everyone present obeyed. "Let us go." Marquis Ardenfire brought along Dongbua Shui Ying. A red-haired male brought along a little doll. They directly tore through the void and left the marquisdom. Soon, they arrived at the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace within the Ardenfire City. The Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Even in the 6 great ancient nations, there would be a Southern Cloud Sacred Palace located in slightly bigger cities. It accepted cultivators from all over the world to cultivate here. But if one wanted to cultivate to the highest level, most would have to come to the Southern Cloud Nation. And within the Southern Cloud Nation, other than teaching disciples, the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace was also a unique organization that recruited powerful cultivators. Joining the Sacred Palace represented pledging allegiance to the king, and they would obtain all sorts of special benefits. And the one managing the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace within the Ardenfire City was one of the 2 giants of the city, Chun Yu-wei, who, a red-haired male and a little doll, stood by the entrance of the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. "Grandpa Marquis is here personally?" A tall and thin male wearing gray armor walked out. As he walked, his entire body felt like a blade cutting apart the void. Wherever he passed, the void would ripple to both sides. His gaze landed on Dongbua Shuang. He chuckled. This should be the Ying Shan Snow Eagle Little Prince, right? He is a void god at birth and is amazing. Grandpa Marquis has brought him over to my place. Snow Eagle has decided to join the Southern Cloud sacred religion. Marquis, Ardent Fire, chuckled too. Good. Come. Let's talk in detail. Chun Yue enthusiastically led the way. Chapter 1019. Ardent Fire City, within a side hall of the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Chun Yue, and Marquis Ardent Fire were seated by the two sides. Each of them had a long table in front of them. Dongbua Shuang was currently just a child and was seated by the side of Marquis Ardent Fire. Little Prince Snow Eagle. Even though I'm the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace Hall Master of this Ardent Fire City, I have to make things clear beforehand. There are many cultivation techniques in this world, and there are some formidable inheritances from the 6 great ancient nations spreading within my Southern Cloud Nation. Even though it is hard to find one in Ardent Fire City, it is easy to find one in the capital. Chun Yue smiled. Even if it is the same void path, the 6 great ancient kingdoms also have similar absolute arts. I advise you to think carefully before deciding on what to focus on. After all, cultivation consumes a lot of energy. Most people focus on one type of absolute art. Younger brother Wei Ying Shan Snow Eagle has activated his void bloodline. Marquis Ardent Fire chuckled. Previously, he slightly activated his bloodline in front of me. I could vaguely sense that the aura of that bloodline is ancient and unfathomable. It is a cosmos god bloodline. Haha, Snow Eagle is a disciple of my Yingshan clan. He has a cosmos god level void bloodline in his body, and this bloodline comes from the king. Even some void-related absolute arts from the 6 great ancient nations aren't as suitable for Snow Eagle as the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Cosmos God level bloodline. Chun Yue was startled at that moment. There are only a total of 4 cosmos gods in the Southern Cloud Nation, and all of them took different paths. The bloodline of the void could only be that of the monarch, because the 4 great clans and the aristocratic marquis clans frequently intermarried with one another. Even though they would occasionally intermarry with the neighboring nations, the Southern Cloud King was the only cosmos god with a void bloodline. Over the long years, as long as it was not a relatively ancient batch of old fellows, the Southern Cloud King would be able to have a cosmos god bloodline. Most of the new generation of aristocratic marquis clan disciples had cosmos god bloodline in their bodies. However, it was too thin, and the difficulty of activating it was ridiculously high. The cosmos god bloodline in Dongbua Shui Ying's body was similarly thin, but his realm was high. Even without his bloodline, he was fully confident of reaching the pinnacle of primal chaos realm, much less activating his bloodline. With the king's void bloodline in his body, cultivating the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles would indeed yield twice the result with half the effort. Chun Yue nodded. Saying that, he flipped his hand, bringing out a black book. The black book flew straight towards Dongbua Shui Ying and landed in front of him. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the black book in front of him. The material of the book was pitch black, and it reminded Dongbua Shui Ying of the feeling he had when he looked at the essence of the void, the black fog sphere. Complete scroll. Marquis Ardent Fire was slightly startled by the side. It should cost 100,000 cosmos crystals. No need. Chun Yue chuckled and shook his head. Little Prince Snow Eagle's talent is amazing. He is a void god at birth, and he has even activated the void bloodline of the king. You are completely qualified to cultivate the entire Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles for free. I only have to make a simple report to the higher-ups after this. Dongbua Shuang understood what was going on. He had read through many books and knew of some of the rules of the Southern Cloud sacred religion regarding the dissemination of absolute arts. The Southern Cloud sacred religion was so famous that it could become one of the top 10 great religions in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Most who joined the Southern Cloud sacred religion would have to cultivate the first half of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Only after reaching the Unity realm would they be qualified to cultivate the second half. Furthermore, cultivation required fees. Why did those sects work so hard to spread their absolute arts? It was to earn a huge sum of cosmos crystals. A complete Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles cost a total of 100,000 cosmos crystals. Being one of the top 10 great religions in Realm Heart Great Land, how many cultivators chose to learn it? Even those who majored in other absolute arts would have some understanding of it. The accumulation of a sea of cultivators produced a wealth that could drive even cosmos gods crazy. The Southern Cloud Nation relied on this to earn a frightening amount of wealth. Wealth was resources. In terms of wealth, Southern Cloud King was ranked at the forefront across all cosmos gods across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Many cosmos gods envied the other party. They were also working hard to create an absolute art. Wanting to cultivate an absolute art that was easy and powerful was too difficult. Furthermore, to have spread to such an extent, it needed to be managed well. For instance, cultivating an absolute art did not require a fee. If one's talent was heaven-defying, he could apply to impart the absolute art for free. Because absolute geniuses cultivating the absolute art of the Southern Cloud sacred religion would ultimately make the Southern Cloud sacred religion more famous. But the conditions for free were harsh. Dongbua Shui Ying was a disciple from an aristocratic clan within the Southern Cloud Nation. His talent was heaven-defying, and he had awakened the bloodline of the king. Hence, Chun Yue was 100% confident. Hua! Dongbua Shui flipped through the black book in his hand. Just as he flipped it open, a large amount of light shot out from the black book. It directly entered between the eyebrows of Dongbua Shui. Oh! The mind of Dongbua Shui boomed. He could vaguely see a scene. Amidst a piece of primal chaos where one could not see the front, the back, the left, and the right. A thin and small figure stood there. Just by standing there, he gave Dongbua Shui a horrifying suppression. This suppression surpassed that of Jiezu, Wuzu, and the others. It seemed that only the vast and boundless aura of Sacred Master was stronger by a level. This thin and small figure had a tall nose. His eyes were deep and serene. He then began displaying his techniques. His entire body was like a weapon. His legs, elbows, back, head, palms, fists, fingers, in any case, every part of his body was a terrifying weapon. His techniques were also becoming more and more profound. Towards the end, his power became more horrifying. Hua! The thin and small figure chopped down with his palm. The huge stars in the distance, as well as the many cultivators and flying ships, all turned into a painting in an instant. Those stars, cultivators, and flying ships became a part of the painting. Following that, the thin and small figure tapped out with his finger. With a tap of his finger, everything shattered. Furthermore, at the moment when everything shattered, Dongbua Shui could vaguely sense a great terror. That horrifying aura was something he had discovered in the past when he peered into the higher dimension through the black foghole. Following that, everything dissipated. That thin and small figure turned into many pieces of information that fused into the soul of Dongbua Shui. It was none other than the detailed cultivation technique of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. But this cultivation technique was vaguely restricted. Dongbua Shui understood that even if he learned it completely, he could not break through the restriction and impart it to others. What a terrifying absolute art! A single palm caused the entire world to turn into a painting. A single finger broke through the void cage and allowed him to see the higher dimension. Dongbua Shui was startled. This was only imparted to others by Southern Cloud King. How strong had he become? No wonder he could single-handedly create a religion that could be ranked among the top 10 great religions in the Realm Heart Great Land. It was unfathomable. Within the palace hall, Marquis Ardent Fire and Chun Yue were chatting and drinking. They did not disturb Dongbua Shui who was beside them. They knew that Dongbua Shui was currently immersed in the process of receiving the inheritance. Who? Dongbo Shui placed down the black book. He could not conceal the shock on his face. He had to properly cultivate this absolute art. Little Prince Snow Eagle, you've learned the absolute art too. Chun Yue, he chuckled. Only after receiving the inheritance would you be able to see the king display the complete Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. In the future, it will be rare for you to have such an opportunity. You should experience it more. Dongbo Shui nodded. He added, Hall Master, I've heard that this Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles that was imparted to others isn't the complete one, right? Chun Yue, he nodded. Previously, you have seen the king display the complete art. What you're learning is the simplified version. After all, in order to spread it across the many nations in the realm Heart Great Land, it has to be cheap and simple. This simplified version is sufficient. You can reach the 7th level strength at the Unity Realm and the 9th level at the Primal Chaos Realm. Dongbo Shui nodded. One could cultivate it to the 7th level at the Unity Realm and the 9th level at the Primal Chaos Realm. Where he came from, that was the limit, and this was merely the simplified version of this absolute art. If you can reach the 5th level strength of the Unity Realm, I can help you apply to become an inner disciple. By then, your Ying Shan clan just has to spend some effort, and it won't be hard for you to become an inner disciple. By then, you'll be able to obtain the complete version of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Chun Yue chuckled. Actually, many cultivators are ambitious. They want to obtain the complete Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. But how many could unleash the 8th level strength at the Unity Realm? And how many could reach the God Yuan Palace 10th level strength at the Primal Chaos Realm and suppress new cosmos gods? If you could reach that stage, the king will definitely take the initiative to accept you as a personal disciple and obtain other secret impartations. Very soon, Dongbo Shui Ying and Marquis Ardent Fire left the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace and returned to the Marquis Dome. Returning to his residence, Dongbo Shui Ying immediately began researching this Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Chapter 1020. Yingshan City was a great city ranked at the forefront across the entire Southern Cloud Nation. The city was vast and boundless, and it was where the Yingshan ancestral family was located. Within the ancestral family, there was a towering, snowy mountain peak. There were more than 10 houses here, and it was relatively quiet. This was where the old ancestor of the entire Yingshan clan, Old Mother Yingshan, lived. Ancestor, an elder from his own clan, respectfully greeted. Old Mother Yingshan was seated cross-legged on a huge rock overlooking the huge Yingshan clan king residence. She shook her head. That little fellow called Snow Eagle has a great talent, but it's a pity that he was forced to be born prematurely after just 15 years. Otherwise, if they were to be reborn after a few hundred years, the bloodline in their bodies would be much stronger. What a pity. Oh, right. Is it confirmed that Chan Yu Yinjin is the murderer? No. The white-haired elder respectfully said, We used an illusory realm array to trap her in an illusory realm. In the illusory realm, she will obediently confess everything. But in the illusion, she said that she didn't kill him and that someone framed her. Oh, the wrinkled old face of Old Mother Yingshan remained expressionless. There are two possibilities. One, she was indeed wronged. Secondly, she should have erased a portion of her own memories. The doyen from the ancestral clan spoke. Erased memories can't be recovered, and there's no way to verify it. For cultivation experts, it was indeed not difficult to erase memories. But if he erased it, he would truly forget about it. Even he himself believed that his altered memories were real. We have also tried our best to investigate the other clues, but all of them have been cut off. Other than some that could not be investigated, the ones that could be investigated were all destroyed by Chan Yu Yinjun. The ancestral clan doyen said, Right now, we don't have any evidence. We can only deduce that Chan Yu Yin was the one who did it, and even erased her own memories. She's a descendant of a noble family. If you want to kill her, you need evidence. If not, King Ho would have to act personally. An elder from the ancestral clan spoke. The descendants of noble clans had special privileges. The Southern Cloud Nation had its laws too. Aristocratic clan disciples could not be casually killed. Naturally, those like Marquis Ardent Fire and Old Mother Ying, who were conferred marquises and conferred kings, had greater authority. They could directly attack and kill him. Huolai, this brat, has encountered such a thing even though he is managing a marquisdom. Old Mother Ying frowned. Back then, this marriage. It was Marquis Ardent Fire who personally asked for this marriage with the Chanyu clan. One had to know that there were only 3 female conferred kings in the Southern Cloud Nation. Old Mother Ying had an extremely good relationship with the old ancestor of the Chanyu clan, Empress Chanyu. They were like sisters. This marriage was something that Old Mother Ying had once mentioned to Empress Chanyu. Chanyu Yin did not teach her well. She will be stripped of all her status in the marquisdom and chased out of the residence. Old Mother Ying casually said. On account of the fact that he had mentioned this marriage to Lady Chanyu before, she had shown some mercy. However, Chanyu Yin would no longer be a descendant of an aristocratic clan. Although she was at Unity Realm 4th level, she would only be an ordinary commoner. It would be a small matter for an aristocratic clan descendant to kill her. Those lands, cavern dwellings, shops, and other resources under Ying Lai, whose name would no longer be touched by her. This is something I prepared for the little snow eagle to nurture his bloodline. He should have great potential that can be excavated. Old Mother Ying waved her hand and threw out a storage wristband. As for other resources and treasures, prepare them according to your identity as an Ying Golden Order disciple. All right, hurry up and send it over. Yes, this elder respectfully acknowledged. Old Mother Ying eyes were filled with expectation. Those who were born prematurely would be the ones with the strongest bloodline in the history of the Ying clan. After all, in the Realm Heart Great Land, only a clan was truly united. It was common for a clan to escape and seek refuge in another nation when they could not stand it. Strictly speaking, the Black Devil 4 nations were part of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation of the 6 Great Ancient Nations in the earliest period. It's just that over time, and after 2 War of the Ancient Nations, some clans broke away from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation and occupied a piece of land to build their own nation. Some clans even offended other superpowers and were forced to flee, seeking refuge in another nation. Hence, when a genius appeared in a clan, the clan would definitely do their best to groom him. Every child born in the clan would be carefully nurtured. It's just that as the clan was too big, there would inevitably be some black sheep. Let's see. Let's see when this little fellow Snow Eagle will break through to the Unity Realm. Old Mother Ying thought. By seeing how long he takes to reach the Unity Realm, we could determine the potential of his bloodline. Scram. In the future, if you dare take half a step into the marquisdom, I'll kill you. Chanyu Yin stood outside the marquisdom in a daze. Her eyes were filled with despair. Ever since she joined the Ying clan, she was no longer a member of the Chanyu clan. Instead, she was a part of the Ying clan. Now that she was stripped of her identity and chased out of the marquisdom, she was a commoner. Everything was gone. Gone. I really didn't. Chanyu Yin muttered, I am innocent. She erased and altered her memories so as to escape death. Until now, even she felt that she did not do anything and was innocent. Mother. Outside the marquisdom, 2 males brought along some servants and protectors standing there. Chanyu Yin looked over. My son, I am innocent. Mother, little brother, and I know you are innocent. It's just that currently, that Ying Snow Eagle is doted on by the entire Ying clan. Grandpa Marquis is also standing on his side. So what if his bloodline is strong? He might not be strong. In the future, when I become a conferred Marquis, I'll directly kill him so that Mother can vent her anger. The eldest son gritted his teeth. The second son was more low profile. After all, the eldest son had long reached the Unity Realm and was at the 4th level strength. He was qualified to say these words. The second son was currently at the void god origin birth realm and did not have the confidence to do so. Mother, I've arranged a residence for you. Go, 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 endure it for now. Let's see what that little bastard can do in the future. I'm afraid he will have to cultivate for a long time before he reaches the unity realm. That eldest son snorted angrily. Zhongfu, I'm truly innocent. Let's go. The entire Yingshan clan is siding with that Yingshan Snow Eagle. Even though Chan Yu Yin Zhen felt great resentment in her heart, she was clear that she had been stripped of her identity as an aristocratic noble disciple. Hence, she was much more cautious when she spoke. Time passed. Donghua Shueing did not place that Chan Yu Yin Zhen in his eyes. After all, in his eyes, becoming a conferred king was an easy task for him. His goal was to become a cosmos god. Cultivation was the most important. In the blink of an eye, 1,500 years passed. To cultivators, this period was as short as 10 days to half a month for mortals. Ardent Fire Marquis Donghua Shueing was currently seated within a courtyard filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. He held onto a book in his hand. His body felt warm. The spiritual liquid given by this old ancestor of the Yingshan clan is indeed good for nurturing the bloodline. This void bloodline of mine has become several dozen times denser, allowing me to cultivate more easily. It was mainly because it was too thin previously. Under normal circumstances, there was no value in nurturing such a thin bloodline. But there were many similarities between the void of the Realm Heart Great Land and the void of the Primal Chaos Void. Cultivation was originally simple and easy. With a void god soul, Donghua Shueying's cultivation speed was much faster than when he was in the womb. Furthermore, with the void bloodline as a reference, and the corresponding absolute art, Southern Cloud, 12 Sacred Styles, Donghua Shueying had actually succeeded in cultivating the third style of the Southern Cloud, 12 Sacred Styles in just 1,500 years, allowing him to reach the 5th level Star Pagoda strength in the past. In other words, he was at the God Yuan Palace 5th level strength. With this strength, he could naturally awaken and step into the Unity realm. No rush, no rush. Even though I want to portray the image of an absolute genius and was previously forced into the world, it is still too fast for me to reach the Unity realm in just 1,000 years. Amen. It would be best if it is closer to 10,000 years. Donghua Shueying pondered. Let's do it for 8,000 years. He had read through too many miscellaneous books, and according to the examples of other bloodline-related absolute geniuses, he made a breakthrough plan for himself. He did not wish for himself to be too dazzling and be suspected of reincarnating, resulting in an ultra-strong expert coming over to inspect his memories. My son, a loud shout could be heard from outside. One could see a male filled with smiles rushing over from afar. He was extremely passionate and cheerful. Donghua Shueying could not help but clutch his head. Oh, my father. This father of his, Yingshan Lai, who was truly an exquisite character. Star. Chapter 10:21. My son is reading. Father has brought you some of your favorite food. Yingshan Lai, who flipped his hand. A wooden plate appeared with a single hand. On the wooden plate were some wooden cages and jade plates. All of them were filled with delicacies that emitted a strong fragrance. In the past, when Donghua Shueying chased after the destruction devils, he had also tasted all sorts of delicacies. Now that he reincarnated into the Realm Heart Great Land, other than reading through many books, he would frequently visit the famous restaurants and taverns in the Ardent Fire City to eat delicacies. Currently, many aristocratic clan disciples in the Ardent Fire City knew that Prince Snow Eagle loved to eat. Elder Tian, I'm going to enter closed-door cultivation. Nobody is to disturb me. Donghua Shueying turned around and left. My son, Yingshan Lai, who hurriedly came over. Elder Tian blocked in front of Yingshan Lai, who, Prince Snow Eagle is going to enter closed-door cultivation. Don't disturb him. AI. Yingshan Lai, who could only helplessly twitch his lips when he saw that. He casually took a snack from one of the wooden cages and threw it into his mouth. He doesn't want to eat such delicious food. Truly woo, I'll let Xinglan eat it. Turning around, Ying Shanlai, who went to find Rong Xinglan. Elder Tian muttered to himself when he saw this. This Ying Shanlai, whose skin is really thick. The two Blackstream cloud wolves that were lying there glanced at the leaving Ying Shanlai, who before closing their eyelids and went back to sleep. Who? I can't beat or drive them away. Their skin is so thick too. What a headache. Dongbua Shui Ying hid in a pagoda. Within the pagoda, there were waves of spatial turbulence. At the center, there was a huge stone floating 3 meters in diameter. The moment Dongbua Shui Ying entered, he appeared on top of that stone and sat down cross-legged. The surrounding spatial turbulence revolved around, and some of it permeated into the body of Dongbua Shui Ying. This was a void god pagoda specially bought by the ardent fire marquis Dom for the sake of cultivating the southern cloud 12 sacred styles. It was meant for Dongbua Shui Ying to cultivate. The father of this life? Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. He disliked Ying Shanlai, who from the bottom of his heart. After all, before he revealed his shocking talent, Ying Shanlai, who did not care about the life and death of his children. He only knew how to enjoy himself. He did not have any feelings for Rong Xinglan in the past. Just this alone was enough to cause Dongbua Shui Ying to dislike him. However, ever since his birth, he had been too dazzling. Ying Shanlai, who would come here every few days. He welcomed the other party with a smile and was very passionate. He could ignore him, but Ying Shanlai, who would turn around to coax Rong Xinglan. He would often bring some food and drinks and some accessories to coax Rong Xinglan. Rong Xinglan discovered that her husband was treating her so well. Even though she knew that he was trying to curry favor with her, she gradually forgave him. Now that the relationship between Rong Xinglan and Ying Shanlai, who became better, Dongbua Shui Ying could only try his best to hide. Whatever, as long as mother is happy, and as long as he doesn't stir up trouble, I'll just treat him as a happy fruit for mother. Since I'm in seclusion, I should cultivate seriously. Dongbua Shui Ying glanced at the book in his hand before keeping it. This book also introduced the Southern Cloud King. During these years, Dongbua Shui Ying had collected many books on the Southern Cloud King. He had also collected some intelligence, discovering that the Southern Cloud King had long reached the pinnacle of voidification. He even had avatars. This made Dongbua Shui Ying feel that he had a bright future in the Southern Cloud sacred religion. It was worth it for him to focus on his cultivation. Keeping the book, Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged on a floating rock. He began cultivating. Dongbua Shui Ying was different from others. He did not encounter any bottlenecks in cultivating the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. After all, the highest level of this simplified version was merely the god Yuan Palace 9th level strength. In addition to how powerful the Southern Cloud King was, the technique he created was easier to learn. Its difficulty was equivalent to creating an 8th level star pagoda technique in his previous life. In addition, there were many similarities between the void of the two origin worlds. Hence, he did not encounter any bottlenecks. As for his other main cultivation path, the Tao of Mirage, because the laws and profound mysteries were completely different, it was much slower for him to cultivate it. This was also the reason why Dongbua Shui Ying chose to rely on the Tao of Void to break through to the primal chaos realm. Only when his soul was stronger would he be able to cultivate the Tao of Mirage faster. Hong Long Long, his body was ringing. There were a total of 8 prismatic crystal pillars embedded within the Void God Pagoda. The chaotic spatial flow that was produced continuously permeated into the body of Dongbua Shui Ying, influencing his body. Some of the treasures and medicines he consumed were also nourishing his muscles, bones, and blood vessels, causing the blood vessels in his body to become denser. Actually, this God Pagoda was primarily used to cultivate the Southern Cloud sacred body. This Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles came with an important body cultivation technique, the Southern Cloud sacred body. The further one cultivated the Southern Cloud sacred body, the more precious treasures were acquired. Absorbing the essence of these treasures into one's body was akin to using the body as a secret treasure weapon. Once it was cultivated to the pinnacle, any part of the body could be used as a weapon in battle. His body could be said to be indestructible. Furthermore, it had the effect of voidification, allowing him to penetrate through the void and escape. Hence, this southern cloud sacred body was a relatively perfect survival technique. This was also one of the reasons why the southern cloud sacred religion could become one of the top 10 great religions in Realm Heart Great Land despite coming from a Tier 2 nation. Time passed. Amen. Dongbo Shui-ing suddenly sensed something. He abruptly stopped cultivating. 8,000 years have passed. Dongbo Shui-ing softly nodded. His plan was to break through to the Unity Realm when he was 8,000 years old. Even though time passed silently during cultivation, he would naturally stop at this point in time. I've mastered the 4th and 5th style of the Southern Cloud, 12 sacred styles. Dongbo Shui-ing sat cross-legged there. His entire body suddenly burst forth with formless void blades, flying out in all directions. Wherever they passed, ripples would appear in the void, and his might was so great that he even faintly had the demeanor of Chun Yue. So. Dongbo Shui-ying's body suddenly flashed. He teleported around the inner space of this void god pagoda before returning to his original position on top of the huge rock. I've grasped teleportation too. Dongbo Shui-ying softly nodded. The 4th and 5th style of the Southern Cloud, 12 sacred styles were techniques at the God Yuan Palace 6th level. The 6th and 7th style were techniques at the 7th level. And the 8th style was at the Primal Chaos Realm 7th level. Because some Primal Chaos giants might not reach the 7th level just by using the profound mysteries at the Unity Realm. Hence, the 8th style utilized some profound mysteries at the Primal Chaos Realm, allowing most Primal Chaos giants to reach the 7th level. Only those at the 7th level were qualified to be conferred as conferred marquee. The 9th and 10th style were at the God Yuan Palace 8th level. The 11th and 12th style were at the God Yuan Palace 9th level. I'm going out for a walk to relieve my boredom. When I return, I'll break through to the Unity Realm. Dongbo Shui-ying stood up. God Yuan Palace 6th level. One had to know that within the Marquis Dom, disciples at the God Yuan Palace 5th level could become elders. As long as the honored guests at the God Yuan Palace 6th level were loyal to the Marquis Dom, they could also become elders. An expert with such strength could casually join the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace, and he would have a high position with special privileges. In another origin world, Primal Chaos Void, new Primal Chaos giants merely had the combat strength of the 6th level, leaving the Void God Pagoda. The 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves that were guarding outside the pagoda immediately rushed over. In reality, there were guards guarding the surrounding courtyards of the Void God Pagoda. When Dongbo Shui-ing was in closed-door cultivation, other than Master Marquis, nobody dared to barge in. I'm going out for a walk. Dongbo Shui-ing had grown taller, giving him the demeanor of a handsome young man. Very soon, a carriage pulled by 2 dragon beasts appeared. The handsome young man sat on the carriage with 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves lying in front of him. Beside him stood Elder Tian and his 9 personal guards at the back of the carriage. The carriage rapidly arced through the sky and flew out of the Marquis Dome. Prince, where should we go first? Elder Tian asked. Let's go to the Lujian restaurant first. It has been a long time since I ate. My stomach is already growling. Dongbo Shui-ing said. The 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves lying by his feet let out joyful roars. Clearly, the 2 of them liked the delicacies of the Lujian restaurant. Chapter 1022. The Liujian restaurant stretched for 2 to 3 miles along the street. Row upon row of pavilions were built, and the number of customers was like a tide. It was very lively. Young Master Snow Eagle, you haven't been here for a long time. Please come in, please come in. How about I arrange the Lord supporting building for you? A restaurant manager immediately took the initiative to welcome him. After all, in terms of status, this little prince Ying Snow Eagle was ranked at the forefront in the entire Ardenfire City. If he were to offend this Snow Eagle little prince, the entire restaurant would likely have to close down. Below one of the pavilions in the entire restaurant, the Auxiliary Lord Pavilion, the carriage and the dragon beast were also arranged there. Large pots of fruits and beast meat were also prepared for the dragon beast. The two dragons were also gobbling down the food. On the upper floor of Fu Jun building, Dongbo Shui Ying and Elder Tian shared a table, while the 9 personal guards split into 2 tables at the corner. The 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves were also served with exquisite plates of delicacies. Although this Laosian restaurant is barely ranked in the top 10, I like it the most. Dongbo Shui Ying ate to his heart's content. As a powerful cultivator, eating was purely for the enjoyment of delicious food. After all, not eating or drinking for hundreds of millions of years was a small matter. The maids were like clouds, serving delicacies one after another. These maids were usually world deities or true gods. Due to their abilities, it was not easy for them to find a good job in the Ardenfire City. Hence, they could only run errands and become servants. Only after becoming a void god could he start doing some difficult tasks. After eating and drinking for more than an hour, his entire body was covered in perspiration. Dongbo Shui gradually stopped drinking and started to enjoy his wine. At the same time, he was also looking at the scenery outside the window. Dongbo Shui suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. About 10 miles away, Dongbo Shui furrowed his brows. "Young master," Elder Tian asked. "I'm almost done. It's time to go." Dongbo Shui stood up. Elder Tian, the 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves, and the bodyguard were almost done with their meals. They all stood up, more than 10 li away from the street. A luxurious carriage streaked across the sky. The carriage was pulled by 8 purple gold dragon beasts, and there were dozens of beautiful maids surrounding the carriage. Wherever he passed, even the cultivators on the streets would move to the side, not daring to look up, because those who lived slightly longer in Ardenfire City knew that this carriage belonged to the Misty Cloud Pavilion Master, Chun Yufeng. Being the owner of the biggest money-squandering establishment in Ardenfire City, the Misty Cloud Pavilion, Chun Yufeng's status was naturally extremely high. He was definitely an influential figure in Ardenfire City. Even those aristocratic clan descendants wouldn't dare to offend him, let alone the commoners. Inside the luxurious carriage, the outside of the carriage was only about 10 feet wide, but the inside was more than 100 feet wide. 2 chubby men sat opposite each other, both of them being served by beauties. A plump man was naturally Chun Yufeng. His face was filled with smiles, making people feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. As for the other plump man, he was relatively tall and big. He was emitting a faint, terrifying, and austere aura. As he breathed, there was a faint black aura coming out from his nose, causing the beauties beside him to tremble in fear. "Brother Qian, I'll have to trouble you this time to give me more goods." Chun Yufeng complained. "I don't have enough goods. My days are tough too. There aren't many goods. This distribution is something that offends others." That plump man nonchalantly said, "I know Brother Qian isn't having an easy life too. Naturally, I won't mistreat Brother Qian." Chun Yufeng passionately said, "There's no rush." That plump man remained indifferent. "Yes, yes, yes. Come, come, come. Have a taste of this heavenly dawn spirit wine. This is a fine wine brewed by our king after he left the realm Heart Great Land and discovered the heavenly dawn god tree in the surrounding primal chaos stars. It is rare for me to get my hands on some." Chun Yufeng waved his hand, and a translucent wine flask appeared in front of him. Through the wine flask, one could see the wine liquid that was suffused with green light rippling inside. This wine flask directly flew to the table in front of that obese and huge man. "Oh, heavenly dawn spirit wine?" Only then did the plump man reveal a grin. "Good wine, good wine." That plump man seemed relatively satisfied. As he drank, he looked outside. This carriage was sealed, but those outside could not see into the carriage. Nevertheless, those inside could easily see the scenery outside. Enjoying the service of beauties and drinking the wine, this plump man revealed a grin. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly. That is, the plump man saw a pair of commoners on the distant street. That woman was merely a true god, yet there were faint red god imprints revolving in the eyes of the plump man. He could not help but feel delighted in his heart. The spiritual light emitted by this soul is so dense. It is truly a good guiding medicine. TSK. I was lucky enough to discover it. Stop, the plump man said. Quickly stop, Chun Yufeng shouted. The carriage rapidly stopped. Only then did Chun Yufeng smile. Brother Qian, what's the matter? That woman. The plump man pointed to the distant street. She is wearing a violet robe and has a jade hairpin on her head. Saying that, he could not help but condense the illusory figure of a woman by the side. I want this woman, the plump man said. Chun Yufeng looked from afar. He was extremely well-informed in Ardent Fire City. There were not many aristocratic clan disciples, but there were only so many of them. He recognized all of them. With a single glance, he could ascertain that the origin of that woman was very ordinary. Even if she came from an aristocratic clan, she was merely a true god and had a low status. Brother Qian, rest assured, I will immediately capture her. Chun Yufeng chuckled. The plump man nodded. He was an outsider, and it was not suitable for him to do such a thing. However, it was very simple for Chun Yufeng to do such a thing. Yin Wen and his daughter had long seen that luxurious carriage in the distant sky. They recognized that it belonged to the Misty Cloud Pavilion Master and naturally moved to the side of the road. However, the carriage swooped down and stopped not too far away from them. On the carriage, the curtain of the carriage opened, revealing two plump men who were being served by many beauties. Among them, the Misty Cloud Pavilion's master, Chun Yufeng, was looking downwards. His pair of small eyes were looking downwards, but they were very cold. His gaze landed on Yin Wen and his daughter. Bring that woman over. Yes. The female attendants outside the carriage had extraordinary strength. Instantly, two Unity Realm female attendants flew down. Spare my life, Misty Cloud Pavilion Master, spare my daughter. That middle-aged man, Yin Wen, hurriedly knelt down and begged. I am a pill master of the Yin clan's medicinal hall. Please give me some face. The girl, Yin Yu, also knelt down in fear. Humph. Chun Yufeng snorted coldly. He coldly glanced at Yin Wen and his daughter and was too lazy to speak. Yin Wen was extremely terrified and his heart was in a mess. He was very clear. Even though the master of their medicinal hall had some status, he did not dare to utter a word in front of the Misty Cloud Pavilion Master, let alone a pill master like him. Father. Yin Yu was also anxious and terrified. What would be the outcome if she fell into the hands of the Misty Cloud Pavilion Master? If she was lucky, she would only be toyed with by the customers of the Misty Cloud Pavilion. If she was unlucky, she would probably lose her life. Shua, a figure appeared. It was a gray-robed old man. This gray-robed old man appeared in front of the kneeling Yin Wen and his daughter. Waving his hand, Hong. A void ripple blasted on the bodies of those two Unity Realm female attendants who were rushing down. Those two female attendants were immediately forced back. Tian Yiji, Misty Cloud Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng looked down with a cold gaze. When he saw that gray-robed old man, he could not help but frown. He recognized that was the honored guest of Marquis Ardent Fire, Tian Yiji. At this moment, a carriage arced through the sky and flew over. There was a handsome young man seated on the carriage with two Blackstream Cloud Wolves lying in front of him. Behind him were 9 cold and stern personal guards. Pavilion Master Chun Yu, you're even thinking of snatching my female attendants? The handsome young man sat there. He extended his hand and caressed the smooth back fur of the huge Blackstream Cloud Wolves. He indifferently said. His voice reverberated in midair. Many cultivators on the surrounding streets did not dare to utter a word. Prince Snow Eagle? A smile appeared on the face of Pavilion Master Chun Yu. He merely frowned slightly as he looked at the plump male beside him. The gaze of that plump male was cold. He looked at Dongbua Shui Ying, who was seated on the carriage. Dongbua Shui Ying was similarly looking at that plump male. Chapter 1023. Yin Wen and his daughter knelt there. They held their breaths. They were both excited and frightened. They could not help but look at the two carriages pulled by the dragon beasts in midair. One carriage was luxurious, with Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng and the mysterious plump male on it. The other carriage had that Shan Snow Eagle little prince who was currently caressing the fur of the Blackstream Cloud Wolf. Father. Yin Yu transmitted to her father. Rest assured, the status of Prince Snow Eagle is extraordinary. Since he has spoken, that Pavilion Master Chun, you will definitely give him some face. Yin Wen transmitted a message to comfort his daughter, though he was feeling uneasy in his heart. Many cultivators on the street had already retreated to the two sides. Even though they did not dare to make any noise, they were still watching the situation unfold. The two parties clashing above, they were absolutely big characters in the entire Ardent Fire City. One party controlled the biggest money-squandering den and had many subordinates under him. His influence was huge. The other party was the Ying Shan clan's little prince, Snow Eagle, who was doted on by many. Old Mother Ying Shan regarded him highly. Prince Snow Eagle, is it possible for you to part with this female attendant of yours? Chun Yufeng smiled. He was very passionate. I'll naturally not let Prince Snow Eagle suffer a loss. You know she is mine, yet you still want to snatch her away? Dongbua Shuang sat there and casually said. Chun Yufeng's expression froze. She was just a little girl, yet she did not give him any face at all. If this Prince Snow Eagle little prince was deliberately finding trouble with him to obtain some benefits, Chun Yufeng would still be willing to give some benefits to the other party. Who would have thought that this Snow Eagle little prince was really foolish enough to stand up for a weak little girl? Chun Yufeng glanced at the plump male by the side. I hope for you to help me capture this girl. I'll definitely remember this favor of Brother Chun Yu. The matter of the goods can be discussed too. The plump male transmitted. Chun Yufeng felt bitter in his heart. Clearly, Brother Qian was not willing to give up. Brother Qian, this Prince Snow Eagle little prince is too young and tender. This kind of greenhorn is the hardest to deal with. Chun Yufeng transmitted. With Brother Chun Yu's status in the Ardent Fire City, can't you do this? The plump hunk transmitted. AI, this is ultimately the Ardent Fire City, and the status of Marquis Ardent Fire cannot be shaken. Furthermore, this little Prince Snow Eagle has said that she is his female attendant. It was my fault for trying to snatch it forcefully. If things get out of hand, I won't be able to gain any advantage. Chun Yufeng said. Robbing civilians, killing one or two civilians, given how vast the Ardent Fire City was with billions and billions of cultivators within, it was indeed a small matter. Even according to the law, if a noble descendant committed such a crime, he would only be fined some universe crystals. But in reality, as long as they didn't make a big deal out of it, and the number of robberies and killings weren't many, there wouldn't be any punishment. After all, the punishment for robbing a commoner wasn't much. If there were thousands or tens of thousands of robbers, and the punishment was severe, even the nobles wouldn't be able to handle it. Still not coming up? Let your father go back first. Dongbua Shui couldn't be bothered to waste any more time with them. He ordered. Elder Tian immediately extended his hand and pulled that girl. At the same time, he transmitted to this father-daughter pair. Follow the prince first. As for you as a father, if you want to see your daughter, you can visit the Marquis Dome. Hurry up and go. Yin Wen hurriedly urged. Amen. The daughter Yin Yu acknowledged. South. Elder Tian pulled this girl and flew over to the side of Dongbua Shui Ying's carriage. She obediently stood by the side of Dongbua Shui Ying like a female attendant. Go. Dongbua Shui Ying was too lazy to even look at Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng. The two dragon beasts let out a roar. They immediately pulled the carriage and arced through the sky. Only the carriage of Misty Cloud Pavilion Master remained there. Hua! Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng closed the curtains. He looked at the sullen plump male and advised. This little prince is too young, and his way of doing things is rude and unreasonable. But we are in the wrong in this matter, and we can't win against him. It's useless even if I try to stop him. If I dared to act, the army of the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom would kill their way over. Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng let out a sigh of relief. After all, Dongbua Shui Ying had left so decisively that Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng did not need to say anything else. Humph. The plump male had a sullen expression. A black aura flowed on the surface of his body as he coldly said, "Let's go to the Misty Cloud Pavilion first." Good, 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 Chun Yufeng answered. Hua. Very soon, this luxurious carriage began flying towards the Misty Cloud Pavilion. The father of that girl, Yin One, who was left behind, let out a sigh of relief when he saw this, even though he guessed that the other party would not be angry at him for failing to snatch his daughter away. After all, from the looks of it, Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng did not wish to shed all pretense of cordiality with the little Prince Snow Eagle. Fortunately, Prince Snow Eagle appeared. Otherwise, we would be in deep trouble. He sighed inwardly. Even though there were many cultivators in the Ardent Fire City, and with the fines as punishment, aristocratic marquises would rarely kill or plunder, he still felt despair when it happened to him. But living within the city was better than living outside the city. Outside the city was a true, chaotic world of slaughter. True gods and ordinary void gods like them would not be able to survive for long outside before being killed. Little Prince Snow Eagle is really formidable. He actually did not give any face to the Misty Cloud Pavilion Master. Why would little Prince Snow Eagle care about that Misty Cloud Pavilion Master? With the talent of little Prince Snow Eagle, he will definitely have a bright future. He might even become a conferred marquis in the future. Right. He will become a conferred marquis. He will naturally be different from other aristocratic marquises. The surrounding cultivators continued walking. They were discussing in groups of 2s and 3s. To them, this was practically a clash between the top existences in the Ardent Fire City. As for the higher existences, it was likely only Marquis Ardent Fire and Chun Yue. On the carriage, Dongbua Shuiying sat there. The female attendant Yan Yu said, gratefully, "Many thanks, Prince Snow Eagle, for saving my life. I've spoken, yet that Misty Cloud Pavilion Master still wants to snatch you away. It seems that it is the intention of his companion. He has a strong desire to snatch you away." Dongbua Shuiying nonchalantly said, "In the future, you will temporarily be my female attendant. Without the protection of this identity, you will likely be snatched away very soon." "Yes," Yin Yu answered. She had also discovered that the plump male beside Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng was looking at her with a cold and greedy gaze. "Elder Tian, investigate who was on the carriage with Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng today," Dongbua Shuiying said. "He shouldn't be someone from the Ardent Fire City. I'll get the Marquis Dom to investigate after returning." Tian Yi added. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. He could see with a glance that the aura of that plump male was relatively evil. Furthermore, he did not seem to care about Chun Yufeng, but he was ultimately at the Unity Realm. Dongbua Shuiying did not place him in his eyes. Currently, he had already cultivated the 4th and 5th style of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Those 2 styles were at the 6th level strength. As for the 7th level strength, if he had the 7th level strength, he could directly become a conferred marquis. Hence, even though Dongbua Shuiying had cultivated for 8,000 years, he had reached an extremely high level in the Ardent Fire City. Very soon, the carriage arrived at the region of the Treasure Goods Market. There were many shops in the entire Treasure Goods Market. These shops were selling pills, materials, weapons, and all sorts of rare and precious treasures of varying grades. Like in the Primal Chaos Void and 5 Great Sacred Worlds where he came from, such transactions were usually monopolized by the Holy Grounds. But it was different in the Realm Heart Great Land. All sorts of transactions were more flourishing here. The entire Treasure Goods Market was even operated by a huge array, preventing anyone from snatching away any weapons or treasures from any shop in the Treasure Goods Market. "Prince Snow Eagle, it has been a long time since you came. Prince Snow Eagle, please come in." Following the arrival of Dongbua Shuiying, the managers of various shops were extremely enthusiastic, because in the thousands of years after he was born, Other than enjoying eating all sorts of delicacies, his other favorite hobby was to stroll around the treasure goods market. He would stroll around the shops and observe the refinement of various weapons. He even saw some items that came out from ancient ruins. These allowed Dongbua Ying to discover different kinds of profound mysteries from them. Dongbua Ying came to a relatively huge shop. Just as he entered, he saw a spear emitting an ancient and brutal aura floating at the center of the shop. And then, when Dongbua Ying saw that spear and sensed that aura, his eyes could not help but brighten. "Prince Snow Eagle, you have a good eyesight," the manager by the side said enthusiastically when he saw that. Star. Chapter 1024. Let me take a look. Dongbua Ying directly said, interrupting the long speech that the manager was about to give. "Please, please," the manager said. Only then did Dongbua Ying extend his hand to grab this spear. The surface of the spear was covered with many vein patterns, and it felt comfortable holding onto the spear body. Pulling the spear body became like a dragon. It even let out a faint cry. The manager muttered inwardly when he saw that. This little Prince Snow Eagle seems to know spear techniques. Dongbua Ying held onto the end of the spear body with his left hand. His right hand slowly caressed the spear body. A sense of familiarity filled his heart. Before reincarnating, he primarily cultivated the Tao of Mirage, and the Mirage and illusory realm was not suitable for close combat. Hence, he chose to use the spear in close combat in the past. Eventually, he gave up on it. But in the Realm Heart Great Land, Dongbua Ying decided to cultivate two Tao paths. One was still the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm, since he was talented in this aspect, and the other was the Tao of Void. After all, he originally had deep accumulations. He had obtained the inheritance of Void Primogenitor and Monarch 9 Cloud. He also had the opportunity to observe and comprehend the scaled armor of General Mo Gu. Furthermore, he had spent 1 trillion years in the Lost World Corridor. With all these foundations, and during the teleportation of the Realm Heart Order, Ying felt another way of using the Void. In addition, he had joined the Southern Cloud's sacred religion in the Realm Heart Great Land. Hence, he naturally cultivated two Tao paths. In the Southern Cloud, 12 sacred styles was a close combat absolute art. Most cultivators could use their bodies as weapons, but they could use other weapons too. In this life, I shall use the spear again, Dongbua Ying thought. Wang. Following that, his consciousness permeated into the spear in his hand. Previously, it was the aura of this spear that attracted him. This time, he wanted to investigate it more thoroughly. As his consciousness permeated the spear, Dongbua Ying could vaguely see an enormous black maelstrom staircase. As the staircase went deeper, space became more mysterious and unfathomable. The void in the Realm Heart Great Land was similar to the void in the origin world where he came from. Therefore, Dongbua Ying was able to completely understand this profound mystery. As Dongbua Ying continued his exploration, he could sense that the spiral staircase was getting deeper and faster, and the patterns on the spear shaft were lighting up. Suddenly, everything shattered. Dongbua Snow Eagle frowned as he looked at the spearhead. The shaft of the spear was a very simple gray, but the spearhead was a deep purple spearhead that was suffused with a bloody and ruthless aura. "The spearhead isn't part of the spear?" Dongbua Ying asked. "Young Master Snow Eagle has a good eye," the manager by the side added. "We've invited an expert to appraise it. This secret treasure weapon should be refined by a cosmos god. This spearhead is added later on, but it is sufficiently tyrannical." Dongbua Ying shook his head. "Fierce and domineering? This spear shaft and the original spearhead should be able to use this to unleash an extremely terrifying void killer move. Furthermore, it was absolutely a move at the Cosmos God level. Furthermore, this usage of the void was something Dongbua Ying had never seen before. If it were a complete spear, Dongbua Shuang felt that it would be worth it even if he exchanged the entire Ardent Fire Marquis for it. It's a pity that only the spear shaft was left, and its value was greatly reduced. Even though the spearhead was added later on, it was ordinary. Young Master Snow Eagle, the manager said, this secret treasure weapon lacks a spearhead, yet the spearhead that was added has been used for 1,000,000,000,000 years. Its power is extraordinary. More importantly, it is cheap. It only costs 12 million cosmos crystals. He stared at Dongbua Shuang. 12 million cosmos crystals. The number of people in the entire Ardent Fire City who could afford it could be counted with 2 hands. This little prince, Snow Eagle, who is rumored to be highly regarded by Old Mother Shan, should be able to afford it. 12 million cosmos crystals? Elder Tian Yiji shouted from his side. Do you know how much 12 million cosmos crystals is? It is enough to buy a complete secret treasure weapon. There were many cosmos gods in the realm Heart Great Land. Hence, secret treasures and weapons were more commonly seen than in the primal chaos void and 5 great sacred worlds. Dongbua Shuang watched from the side. Price? Based on his previous attainments in the void aspect, this spear had an extraordinary origin. Just the spear shaft was worth at least 100 million cosmos crystals. Most likely, this shop should not have invited a primal chaos giant in the Tao of Void to look at it. Otherwise, it was impossible for the other party to offer such a price. But Dongbua Shuang would not easily agree to the price the other party offered because he only had 15 million cosmos crystals on him. In terms of wealth, he would most likely be ranked in the top 3 in the Ardent Fire Marquis, of which 8 million cosmos crystals were bestowed by Old Mother Shan. 2 million cosmos crystals were bestowed by Marquis Ardent Fire. Marquis Ardent Fire then gave him cavern dwellings, shops, land, and other resources. Those cavern dwellings, shops, and other resources could also be rented. Most aristocratic clan disciples could live a luxurious life precisely because they had some cavern dwellings and shops, allowing them to earn cosmos crystals continuously. Even though it was little, one had to know that a single cosmos crystal was worth 10,000 upper-grade primal chaos stones. Dongbua Shuang was naturally confident of himself. He did not think that he had to rely on his cavern dwelling and shops to survive. Hence, he had long sold those to the Marquis for 5 million cosmos crystals. Currently, he only had a total of 15 million cosmos crystals. He was wealthier than many elders in the Marquis. Elder Tian, let's not talk about it anymore. 10 million cosmos crystals. This is the limit set by our master. That manager helplessly said, Prince Snow Eagle, honestly speaking, this spear was discovered by a group of cultivators who went out to explore the historical remains 15 years ago. They were fortunate to obtain this spear, and they even fought with each other. Eventually, only 2 of them managed to send this spear to me. Furthermore, they were assassinated in my shop by their companions who went out to explore the historical remains. That time, the commotion was huge. Prince Snow Eagle just had to order someone to investigate, and you would know of this case. My master also had plans. If he couldn't sell it in a short period of time, he would return to his clan's Heavenly Een City after a few million years. At that time, he would bring this spear to Heavenly Een City to sell. There would be more experts there and more people who could afford it. Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly when he heard that. He believed that this story wasn't fake. After all, it was a case from 15 years ago, and he could easily investigate it. All right, 10 million cosmos crystals. I'll buy it. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Good. The manager was overjoyed. His master was only a disciple of the Heavenly Een clan, one of the 4 great clans. If he were to sell it here, his master would be able to benefit greatly. If he were to sell it in Heavenly Een City, he would definitely be exploited by the clan. It's a profit. Master set the minimum price at 10 million. I thought that I wouldn't be able to sell it. When I bought it previously, I only spent 3 million cosmos crystals. The manager was very happy. He was already very satisfied that those who risked their lives to explore the historical remains were able to earn 3 million cosmos crystals. However, he didn't know the true value of this seemingly broken secret treasure weapon with a spearhead was definitely over 100 million universe crystals. It's just that Marquis Ardent Fire, who did not specialize in the void, could only determine that it was a damaged secret treasure refined by a cosmos god. He could not understand how precious it was. Very soon, that disciple from the Heavenly Ying clan, Heavenly Ying Flowing Jade, personally rushed over and completed this transaction. Aha, Prince Snow Eagle, I'll be returning to Heavenly Ying City in a few days. If you were to visit Heavenly Ying City, you must inform me. I'll definitely receive you well. Heavenly Ying Flowing Jade was very happy. This shop was also one of the assets under his name. Previously, he spent 3 million cosmos crystals to buy this spear, and he had practically spent all his treasures. He even used some of the goods in the shop as collateral. Now that he had earned 7 million cosmos crystals, Heavenly Ying Flowing Jade felt that there was no longer a need for him to stay in Ardent Fire City. It was fine for him to arrange for his subordinates to stay here, and he could return to Heavenly Ying City. Heavenly Ying City had a cosmos god protecting it. It was much more flourishing than this place. Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. He brought this spear back to the Marquis Dom before entering closed-door cultivation in the Void God Pagoda. Within the Void God Pagoda, sitting on a floating rock, caressing this ancient and savage spear in his hand, Dongbua Shuang was filled with joy. He recalled the time when he practiced the spear. This is a secret treasure weapon. Even cosmos gods can use it. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. In the future, you will have to accompany me for a very long time. Wong. The spear let out a cry. Being a secret treasure weapon, it naturally had a spirit. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. The feeling of using the spear once again made him happy. He then concentrated. It is time to break through to the Unity Realm. Chapter 1025. On the floating great rocks surrounded by the spatial turbulence, Dongbua Shuang was completely focused. With the treasures given by Old Mother Ying Shan and Marquis Ardent Fire to nourish his bloodline, the originally thin void bloodline had become much thicker, but it was still at the thin level. Nonetheless, Dongbua Shuang's realm was extremely high, and he was able to rapidly stimulate the void bloodline hibernating in his body. The void bloodline was stimulated on a deeper level. At that moment, it caused every particle in his body to transform. This was a direct breakthrough from the origin birth realm to the unity realm. As the level of his body rapidly rose, it was natural for him to frantically absorb the surrounding world energy. The void God Pagoda was specifically used for cultivation, and it had formed a surging maelstrom black hole within. The surging world energy was gushing out from the maelstrom black hole and being absorbed by Shui Ying's body. After a moment, his body stepped into the unity realm. I can cultivate the southern cloud sacred body now. Dongbua Shuang revealed a joyous look. The southern cloud sacred body was a supplementary body cultivation technique that came with the southern cloud 12 sacred styles. Previously, he did not dare to cultivate it, because he would have to step into the unity realm if he wanted to. Wah, wah, wah. With a wave of his hand, a pile of deep green soil was placed on the great rock in front of him. Dongbua Shuang displayed the Southern Cloud Sacred Body Cultivation Technique. The moment it was activated, this deep green soil began emitting many green light spots that entered the body of Dongbua Shuang. This Southern Cloud Sacred Body was the apex body cultivation technique even in the 6 great ancient nations. Its only flaw was that it was too extravagant. Absorbing the essence of many precious materials into his body would allow him to refine his body like a secret treasure weapon. Furthermore, it was relatively easier to refine a secret treasure weapon. His body would implicate his soul, and he had to be more careful during cultivation. The materials required were more stringent, and the price would naturally be higher. When I become stronger in the future, I'll still have to rely on myself to earn cosmos crystals. Relying on the gifts from Marquis Ardent Fire and Old Mother Ying Shan is far from enough. Dongbua Shuang understood this point. Marquis Ardenfire was merely an ordinary primal chaos giant. How many treasures could he get? Old Mother Ying had many treasures, but how many could she give to her juniors? He still had to rely on himself. Naturally, it was sufficient to rely on the help from the Ying clan during the initial phase. This was the benefit of having a clan. For those without any background, they had to desperately obtain resources when they were weak. Without resources, the difficulty of cultivation would increase by 100 or even 1,000 times. For example, cultivating the laws and profound mystery system was extremely difficult. Half a month later, Dongboi Shui exited the Void God Pagoda and looked up. Snowflakes were falling from the sky. It's snowing. Dongboi Shui was shocked. What? Tian Yiji looked at her young master in shock. The aura emitted by this handsome young man was already at the Unity Realm. Unity Realm? 8,000 years, just 8,000 years? Tian Yiji did not dare believe it. To void gods, 8,000 years was equivalent to a nap. It's been a long time since I've accompanied my mother. Elder Tian, let's go. Dongboi Shui said. Sigh. Tian Yiji hastily replied. The two Blackstream Cloud Wolves beside her were also somewhat stunned, but they hurriedly followed. Wang, the array that enveloped the huge marquee dome, also sensed the aura of Dongboi Shui. The array spirit immediately reported this news to Marquis Ardenfire. Marquis Ardenfire sat under a pavilion by the lake. He was drinking by himself. Snowflakes were falling. Grandpa Marquis, a girl respectfully greeted. How was the matter regarding the secret treasure weapon? Marquis Ardenfire indifferently asked. Have you been scammed? Previously, when he learned that Snow Eagle had spent 10 million cosmos crystals to purchase a secret treasure, he immediately thought that he had been scammed. Secret treasures that were qualified to be called secret treasures would usually cost at least 10 million cosmos crystals. How could a brat who was just 8,000 years old know about secret treasures? Marquis Ardenfire became furious at that moment. He felt that someone might be so daring as to covet the cosmos crystals owned by Snow Eagle. That was why he set up a scheme to scam the other party. But knowing that it was a shop owned by a disciple from the Celestial clan, Celestial Flowing Jade, Marquis Ardenfire was not in a rush to act. Instead, he ordered someone to investigate the matter thoroughly. The girl respectfully explained, that weapon is a spear. It was discovered by a few Unity Realm experts 15 years ago when they were exploring historical remains. They had even killed each other. After that, they returned to the city and sold that spear to the Celestial Flowing Jade shop for 3 million cosmos crystals. At that time, they were even assassinated by their companions who were fortunate enough to survive. At that time, the Ardent Fire Army from our Marquis Dom had even sent troops to capture and interrogate them. Marquis Ardent Fire relaxed his eyebrows when he heard that. The shops in the treasure goods market were extremely stingy. They were willing to spend 3 million cosmos crystals to purchase it. Yingshan Snow Eagle had spent 10 million cosmos crystals to purchase it, and he did not lose much. As long as it was not a scheme, Marquis Ardenfire would not interfere. The body of the spear is extraordinary. It's a pity that the original spearhead is missing, and it is a new spearhead. The girl said, that is why it is sold at such a price. Prince Snow Eagle should not suffer a loss. Amen. Marquis Ardenfire nodded. Also, the guest of Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng who had a conflict with Prince Snow Eagle on the street has been investigated. The girl said, he is called Qiangan Shui. He isn't famous and is only doing some shady business. Marquis Ardenfire softly nodded. Being the biggest money-squandering establishment, the Misty Cloud Pavilion would naturally have some transactions that were not regulated by the law. Continue watching. Marquis Ardenfire coldly ordered. He was the person with the highest authority in the Ardenfire city. Some experts with unique origins would usually send someone to watch over them. Yes, the girl respectfully acknowledged. Marquis Ardenfire picked up his wine cup and drank another cup. Suddenly, his expression changed. Master, Prince Snow Eagle has broken through and reached the Unity Realm. A voice directly sounded by his ears. Who? Marquis Ardent Fire suddenly stood up, causing the girl by the side to be startled as she looked at her grandpa Marquis. Unity Realm? He has stepped into the Unity Realm? Marquis Ardent Fire was both startled and delighted. He excitedly muttered to himself, "It has just been 8,000 years. He has reached the Unity Realm just 8,000 years after being born." This speed was too terrifying. Under normal circumstances, it was normal for those who were born at the Origin Birth Realm to reach the Unity Realm after spending 10 million years. Old Ancestor is right. The eyes of Marquis Ardent Fire were emitting light. He was incomparably excited. This brat Snow Eagle has been forced to be born prematurely, but his potential is still huge, and it is possible for him to be excavated. Those bloodline nurturing treasures were truly the right thing to do. Even if it was a normal nurturing, this brat Snow Eagle should have been in the womb for several centuries or more than 1,000 years, and he should be at the Unity Realm when he is born. Now, he has spent a little more time, but it is merely 10 times more time. He has reached the Unity Realm in 8,000 years. Marquis Ardent Fire was very satisfied. In the history of the Southern Cloud Nation, the number of those who were born at the Unity Realm could be counted with one's fingers. All of them had easily reached the Primal Chaos Realm. There were even 2 who became conferred kings. Being born prematurely and reaching the Unity Realm in 8,000 years, it was merely 10 times longer than reaching the Unity Realm in 1,000 years. After all, being born prematurely has some influence. Marquis Ardent Fire could not help but grin, but the influence isn't too great. Ha! It seems that my Ardent Fire Marquis-dom will have another Primal Chaos expert. Even though by then, Dongbo Shui Ying would definitely become a conferred Marquis and establish a Marquis-dom, the relationship between him and Marquis Ardent Fire could not be changed. After all, Dongbo Shui Ying was considered part of the lineage of Marquis Ardent Fire. Strictly speaking, Marquis Ardent Fire was his grandfather. I have to inform Old Ancestor immediately. Marquis Ardent Fire immediately transmitted a message to Old Mother Yingshan. Chapter 10:26. Dongbo Shuiying was still accompanying his mother, Rong Xinglan, and his sister. They were chatting as they ate. Rong Xinglan was delighted too, because her son had entered closed-door cultivation for more than 6,000 years. It had been a long time since she saw her son. Her current status was noble. Naturally, with a single order, the female attendants brought out all sorts of delicacies. Even though cultivation is important, my son should not work too hard. Rong Xinglan chuckled. Mother might not know much, but she has read many books over the years. She knows that cultivating the heart is important too. If one wants to have a bright future, one has to cultivate the heart. My son is ultimately lacking in experience. Your son understands. Dongbo Shuiying obediently answered. Rong Xinglan's smile became more radiant. She liked her son, yet she did not dare to disturb him for fear of affecting his future. She could only watch from the side. But now, her identity was different. She had many treasures and relied on the bloodline cultivation system to easily become a true god. Without the great limit of her lifespan, she was naturally calmer. Snow Eagle. A voice reverberated in the surroundings. Rong Xinglan and Ying Shan Shi were startled. Who dared to barge into the residence of Snow Eagle? Dongbo Shuiying turned over too. One could see 2 figures flying down from midair. One was naturally Marquis Ardent Fire. He was obediently standing behind an old granny. That old granny was currently smiling at Dongbo Shuiying. Marquis Ardent Fire roared, "Why aren't you greeting Old Ancestor?" Snow Eagle greets Old Ancestor. Dongbo Shuiying immediately stood up and bowed. Rong Xinglan and Ying Shan Shi were greatly startled when they heard that. There was only one person in the entire Ying Shan clan who was qualified to be called Old Ancestor, and that was the famous Old Mother Ying Shan across the entire Southern Cloud Nation. The 2 of them immediately stood up from their chairs and knelt by the side. "Stand up." Old Mother Yingshan waved her hand, causing Rong Xinglan and Ying Shan Shiyu to stand up. Old Mother Ying Shan then walked to a stool by the side and sat down. Marquis Ardent Fire stood by her side. Old Mother Ying Shan then carefully observed Donghua Shuang. This little fellow that looked like a teenager. He was still very young, but he was already at the Unity Realm. Huolai did not manage a marquisdom properly, causing you to be born prematurely. Old Mother Ying Shan chuckled. Fortunately, you reached the Unity Realm in 8,000 years. Although there are some effects of being born early, the effect isn't too great. Fortunately, we have the treasures that old ancestor and Marquis gave us. Donghua Shuang said. Those are just external objects. In the end, it's your own extraordinary potential. Old Mother Ying Shan waved her hand, causing a bracelet to fly over. Properly cultivate. With your talent, it isn't hard for you to reach the primal chaos realm. I hope that one day, the king will personally bestow upon you the title of king. If you want to be conferred the title of king, just relying on your bloodline isn't enough. You also need to cultivate your mind, temper yourself, and accumulate your strength. Marquis Ardent Fire sighed as he listened. Conferred kingship? One had to pass the 9th level of the Divine Yuan Palace to be qualified to be conferred the title of king. Old Mother Ying Shan nodded. She was merely raising a high request. She felt that it should not be a problem for her to reach the primal chaos realm. At most, she would have to spend a little more time. As for being conferred the title of king, it was truly difficult. The requirements for one's mental state were also extremely high. No matter how noble one's bloodline was, it had nothing to do with one's mental state. Ultimately, one had to temper himself. It wasn't easy for Donghua Shuang to reach the My Heart as the world realm in his previous life. Snow Eagle will naturally work hard. Donghua Shuang nodded. He received the wristband and immediately refined it. After inspecting it, his heart could not help but leap. There was a small mountain of cosmos crystals. With a sweep of his consciousness, he ascertained that there were a total of 50 million cosmos crystals. Such a huge sum. Properly cultivate. Also, cosmos crystals are precious. In the future, you have to be prudent when purchasing treasures. Marquis Ardent Fire also threw over a storage wristband. Donghua Shuang naturally received it. Inspecting it, he found that there were 8 million cosmos crystals within. Adding up, Marquis Ardent Fire had given him a total of 15 million cosmos crystals. To Marquis Ardent Fire, this was a huge burden. Donghua Shuang naturally accepted it. As a disciple of the Ying Shan clan, he was willing to accept this benefit. In the future, he would also bear the responsibility. This was also what Old Mother Ying Shan and Marquis Ardent Fire were looking forward to. What? Old Mother Ying Shan has such luck? Of her descendants, there is one who reached the Unity Realm in just 8,000 years. Teacher, I've heard that the child called Snow Eagle was forced to be born prematurely after just 15 years in the womb. The Ying Shan clan immediately gave a large amount of bloodline, nourishing treasures to that little fellow, allowing him to reach the Unity Realm in just 8,000 years. The Ying Shan clan will have another marquis in the future. That granny from the Ying Shan clan should be smiling till her mouth is crooked. The various superpowers in the Southern Cloud Nation soon learned of this news. They had also memorized the name Ying Shan Snow Eagle, because this name was destined to become a king. And within the Ardent Fire City, Chan Yu Yinjun, who had always been hiding in the residence arranged by her son, was even more stunned when she heard the news. What? The son of that lowly servant reached the Unity Realm in just 8,000 years? He will almost certainly become a conferred marquis in the future. What should I do? What should I do? Will he bear a grudge and kill me after becoming a conferred marquis? Amidst the vast rolling black clouds, there was a vague, ancient palace. Within the palace, a tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn sat cross-legged there. The surface of his body was surrounded by a cold black aura. That little fellow called Ying Shan Snow Eagle you mentioned, is he a disciple of the Ying Shan clan's Ardent Fire Marquisdom? The tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn said with a deep voice. His pair of blood eyes looked downwards. Teacher, this disciple will not be mistaken. Strictly speaking, Shan Snow Eagle is the son of the second son of Marquis Ardent Fire, Shan Lihu. A red-robed male respectfully answered. Marquis Ardent Fire? The tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn said with a deep voice. Who would have thought that he would be so lucky? The red-robed male obediently did not dare to say anything. He was clear how deep the hatred between his teacher and Marquis Ardent Fire was. He was also responsible for collecting all intelligence regarding Marquis Ardent Fire. Within the Ardent Fire City, within the Misty Cloud Pavilion. The Misty Cloud Pavilion was vast. It was shrouded in clouds, making it seem like a land of dreams. In one of the more secluded mansions. Who would have thought that Prince Snow Eagle has reached the Unity Realm in just 8,000 years? The plump male sat there, allowing the beauties beside him to serve him and feed him fruits. His expression was gloomy. He had never given up. He had always wanted to snatch that girl called Yin into his hands. That was the guiding medicine that he had been dreaming of. Chun Yufeng, that trash. The plump male gritted his teeth. Chun Yufeng had previously agreed to think of a way. But after he followed Dongbua, Shui Ying, and broke through to the Unity Realm, Chun Yufeng immediately rejected the idea. He expressed that he did not dare to participate. After all, how could he offend an existence who would definitely become a conferred marquis in the future? Chun Yufeng was not that foolish. Amen. The plump male was suddenly stunned. Everyone retreat. The plump male stood up. Yes. The surrounding beauties obediently retreated. The plump male rapidly entered the meditation room of this residence. The meditation room was very safe, and it isolated any external scouting. The plump male was even carrying treasures that would affect the scouting. Wong. At that moment, an illusory figure appeared by the side of the plump male. It was a tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn shrouded in black fog. Qiangan Shui greets master. The plump male immediately knelt down. He prostrated himself on the ground with great respect. Do you know of Shan Snow Eagle? That disciple from the Shan clan who reached the Unity Realm at the age of 8,000? The tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn said with a cold voice. I know. The plump male immediately answered. I'll allow you to mobilize the manpower in the surrounding 12 cities. You can use all the cosmos crystals in your hands to kill that Shan Snow Eagle with the fastest speed. The tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn coldly said. Killing Shan Snow Eagle? The plump male was slightly startled. The tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn looked down at him. The plump male replied, Yes, yes. Master, please be rest assured. I'll definitely do my best. Don't disappoint me. Otherwise, you know the consequences. The voice of the tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn was calm. It made the plump male tremble uncontrollably. That was terror that originated from the bottom of his heart. Yes, yes, I'll definitely kill him. The plump male added. Marquis Ardent Fire. The blood-colored eyes of the tall and sturdy figure with a black curved horn were filled with dense killing intent. Since I can't kill you, I'll eliminate the future primal chaos experts from your Marquis Dom first. You will definitely be so angry that you will go mad. Huh? That figure gradually dissipated. Only then did the plump male stand up. He gulped and suppressed the anxiety in his heart. He began thinking rapidly. He knew it was impossible for him to go against his master. The consequences of going against his master made him tremble in fear. Fortunately, that Shan Snow Eagle has just reached the Unity Realm. Currently, he should only have the strength of a God Yuan Palace first or second level expert. He isn't worth mentioning. The only troublesome thing is that the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom will definitely do its best to protect him. The plump male gritted his teeth. Master has allowed me to mobilize the manpower in the surrounding 12 cities. I can even use this batch of money. Amen. I have to think of a foolproof method. It is fine if I don't act, but the moment I act, I must not give him a chance. If that Snow Eagle Prince doesn't die, I'll die. Chapter 10:27. For the sake of survival, the fat man, Qiangan Shui, began to prepare his assassination plan. He even spared no expense in spending cosmos crystals to make all sorts of preparations, buying poison, and even inviting assassins from the Black Devil Great Lake. His preparations became more and more thorough, and he even prepared several assassination plans. But what made him dumbfounded was, ever since that little Prince Snow Eagle from the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom bought that secret treasure spear in return to the Marquis Dom, he had not come out at all. I don't believe it. He's just a little guy who was just born not long ago. His temperament is still unsettled. How can he calm down and cultivate? He will definitely come out again. Qiangan Shui anxiously waited. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years. Qiangan was stunned. The master behind him was equally shocked. In their opinion, no matter how noble one's bloodline was, one's temperament still needed to be tempered before it would gradually become more and more extraordinary. Only then would one be able to calm down and go into seclusion for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. How could there be such a young fellow in seclusion for such a long time? Master, he's not coming out. What do we do? Qiangan Shui anxiously reported to his master. Wait, could it be that your patience is inferior to that of a little fellow? Yes. Qiangan Shui also let out a breath of relief. His master was wise and did not force him to enter the manor to assassinate him. After all, the Marquis's mansion was heavily guarded. Even if his master wanted to enter, he would probably fail. Marquis Ardent Fire and his mother Rong Xinglan had also advised Dongbua Shui Ying that cultivating the heart was important, and there was no need for him to bury himself in cultivation. Although Dongbua Shui Ying agreed verbally, in reality, he had the appearance of a cultivation maniac. Each time he went into closed-door cultivation, it would last for hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years. Just a few days after he came out, he would immediately go back into closed-door cultivation. There was no other way. In the end, Dongbua Shui Ying was not a young fellow. He was the reincarnation of his true spirit, and his mental state had reached the my heart as the world level. Moreover, he was a great expert who had created 2 9th-level techniques in the most difficult system of laws and profound mysteries. With his temperament, it was very easy for him to go into seclusion for 10 billion years at a time. As for tempering one's character, was there going to be another love-hate entanglement? Inconsolable grief to temper his so-called temperament? Dongbua Shui Ying was not in the mood for that. Fortunately, there were some cultivation maniacs among the countless cultivators, so he could only pretend to be one of them. In the blink of an eye, 5 million years had passed. Ardent Fire Marquis Dom, within the residence of Snow Eagle Prince. Rumble, the door of the Void Divine Pagoda opened. A handsome young man in white walked out. It was drizzling, but when the young man in white walked out, the rain naturally avoided him when it was 1 foot away from him. Young master, young master. The guards and servants who were standing guard outside hurriedly greeted respectfully. Very soon, the entire mansion became lively. Tian Yiji, the 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves, and the 9 personal guards rushed over as well. By the time they arrived, Dongbua Shui Ying had already arrived at a nearby lake. There was a pavilion by the side of the lake. There was a praying mat placed within the pavilion. Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged on it. By the side, his female attendant, Yin, was respectfully placing the wine on the table. She was also helping to warm up the wine flask. Yin curiously looked at her young master. Young master's birth is extraordinary, but I've never seen him like any girls. He has also never gone to the Misty Cloud Pavilion to enjoy himself. He treats others peacefully and has always been cultivating. No wonder some cultivators are so heaven-defying. My birth can't be compared to that of young master, yet I still love to play and enjoy myself. Yet young master is so hardworking. Yin thought. Who? Dongbua Shui Ying extended his right hand. A spear appeared in his hand. He placed it flat on his knees. Being a secret treasure weapon, just the tyrannical aura contained within the spearhead made the female attendant Yin feel stifled. Wang, a formless wave emanated from the spear. It was as though a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, creating countless ripples. The formless wave emanating from a spear was extremely subtle. It easily permeated the surrounding void. The void was completely controlled. In the distance, Tian Iji, the Black Stream Cloud Wolf, and his personal guards were all rushing over. Tian Iji was a fifth-stage expert in the Divine Yuan Palace and could even teleport. Even with his acute perception of the void, he didn't realize that the surrounding void was being controlled. Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged. He was like a spider controlling a spiderweb. The surrounding void was being controlled. In fact, the void around him was beginning to distort. The distortions were very minute. It was hard to detect them, even when they were right in front of one's eyes. Only when one's body touched them would one feel something special. Hua hua hua, countless raindrops scattered down. Numerous tiny spatial distortions shifted the raindrops from one location to several kilometers away. The raindrops that were several kilometers away were shifted to another location. Countless raindrops were shifted due to the spatial distortions. However, even though the raindrops were shifted, they were connected seamlessly. It was as though none of the raindrops had shifted. The rain continued to fall. Prince, Tian Iji, the 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves, and the 9 personal guards came to the side of the pavilion. As Dongbua Shui was controlling the void to avoid them, Tian Iji and the others did not notice him, even though they were several meters away. If other primal chaos existences were to discover this, they would be dumbfounded. Dongbua Shui held onto a cup of wine and continued to control the spatial distortions. He was still manipulating the countless minute distortions in the void. The more he manipulated, the more satisfied he was. Buying this spear is really worth it. These 5 million years, Dongbua Shui was also concentrating on cultivating. Because the Tao of Void of the 2 origin worlds was relatively similar, he had reached the primal chaos realm not long ago in terms of the laws and profound mystery system. As for the bloodline breakthrough, he could have reached the primal chaos realm a long time ago. It's just that this breakthrough was too fast. No matter how talented he was, he had to be within the normal category of a genius. Even though he remained at the Unity realm on the surface, he had never stopped researching and comprehending the void. As his realm increased, he began researching the spear. Probing the spear body, it was like seeing a distorted black maelstrom staircase. Every level of the staircase was intersecting with different voids. Dongbua Shui cultivated the opposite Tao. If he were the core of this maelstrom, he could influence the surrounding chaotic void. And this spear body originally contained such a technique, even though it lacked the spearhead, causing the profound mysteries contained within this secret treasure to be lacking. It was sufficient for Dongbua Shui. With his deep foundation, he could comprehend a domain control technique from within. The moment he did so, he was qualified to be considered a God Yuan Palace 7th level technique. More importantly, if he relied on the spear body to execute it, even though he had yet to comprehend many things, it would be taxing for him to execute it. But by relying on the spear body to execute it, its power would explode, and it could be considered a God Yuan Palace 8th level technique. An 8th level domain technique. More importantly, the technique contained within this spear body is at the Cosmos God level. Currently, I have merely seen through a tiny bit of it. Dongbua Shui felt satisfied because the void technique contained within this spear body was of a different direction from the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. It's a pity that I lack the spearhead. It is taxing for me to comprehend it. Dongbua Shui sighed inwardly. Within the void God Pagoda, he could display the violent side of this domain. But at this moment, under the pavilion by the lakeside, he was displaying the most minute aspect of this domain stealthily. The foundation of the realm Heart Great Land is much stronger than the primal chaos void. Over there, only Emperor Ying, Void Pranager, and the mysterious myriad realm Tavern Master are considered formidable in the Tao of Void. And in the realm Heart Great Land, I have come into contact with the techniques left behind by two terrifying experts in this small place called Southern Cloud Nation. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. One was created by Southern Cloud King, and the other was the original Dao of Void expert who refined this spear. Keep. With a thought, Dongbua Shuang moved. The domain was completely kept. The rain continued falling down, just like before. Tian Yi, the female attendant Yin Yu, and the protectors did not notice it at all. Dongbua Shuang was not worried about being discovered. Even Marquis Ardent Fire would have to rely on his own law domain before he could detect it. Otherwise, given how sensitive Marquis Ardent Fire was towards the void, it was impossible for him to detect it from a long distance. After all, strictly speaking, Dongbua Shuang was currently a great expert, not any weaker than Marquis Ardent Fire. Only when they fought would they know who was stronger. Chapter 1028. It's been 5 million years. I can announce to the public that I've reached the 5th level of the Yuanshan Palace. Relying on this, I can head to the Southern Cloud capital and obtain the complete Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Dongbua Shuang thought. As for the complete version, where he could unleash 80% of his strength at the Unity Realm and 10% of his strength at the Primal Chaos Realm, Shui Ying still desired it. To others, it would be a waste even if they obtained it. After all, most 9th level experts could not reach it. But Dongbua Shuang was different. He had to get the absolute art that allowed him to unleash the power of the 10th level at the Primal Chaos Realm. He had to admit that it was impossible for him to create this absolute art at the Primal Chaos Realm. Actually, the majority of Cosmos gods could not create absolute arts that could allow the Primal Chaos Realm to unleash 10th level strength. There were very few who could create it in the Realm Heart Great Land. My son, a passionate voice called out. Dongbua Shui Ying turned around. He saw Yingshan Lai Hu and Rongxing Lan coming over together. Yingshan Lai Hu was currently shouting out passionately. Even though he did not have a good impression of his father from the start, he still admired this Yingshan Lai Hu. Over the past 5 million years, Yingshan Lai Hu had always been coaxing Rongxing Lan, making her happy. Even if it was an intentional disguise, it could be coaxed for 5 million years, and he would still be able to treat it as the truth. At the very least, Rongxing Lan's feelings for her husband had deepened. Father, mother. Dongbua Shui Ying stood up. My son's cultivation is too tough. Even I, as a father, feel sorry for him. Yingshan Lai Hu sighed. These words of his were spoken from his heart. Currently, who would not regard him? Yingshan Lai Hu highly? Why? Wasn't it just because he had an incomparably talented son who was destined to become a conferred marquis at the Primal Chaos Realm? Yingshan Lai Hu was proud of his son, thinking about how he enjoyed himself, and seeing how his son frequently entered closed-door cultivation. Yingshan Lai Hu felt heartache. His son was working too hard. Snow Eagle, what your father said is right. You should go out more and not always stay in seclusion. Rongxing Lan added. She was truly worried about her son. 5 million years. Her son had never liked a woman before. This was very abnormal. Do you like men? Not at all. Okay. I'll go out for a walk. I'll definitely go out for a walk. Dongbua Shuang said. He indeed wanted to go out for a walk. Furthermore, he wanted to go to the biggest city in the distant Southern Cloud Nation, the capital. He wanted to learn the complete Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Don't lie to me. Previously, you only agreed to it verbally, but you immediately went into closed-door cultivation. Rongxing Lan said, Lai Hu, bring Snow Eagle out for a walk. All right. Yingshan Lai Hu nodded. Ever since his son broke through to the Unity Realm, his name had spread across the entire Southern Cloud Nation. Many aristocratic clans within the Southern Cloud Nation knew that the Yingshan clan had an additional talented young fellow. However, after attaining the Unity Realm, Dongbua Shui Ying never left the Marquis residence. If he brought his son out of the mansion, it would definitely be very glorious. Yingshan Lai Hu still enjoyed the scenery. Very soon, Yingshan Lai Hu pulled Dongbua Shui Ying out of the Marquis residence. They were still riding on that extravagant carriage of Ying Shan Lai Hu. Dongbo Shui Ying's carriage was much simpler, while Ying Shan Lai Hu's was more tyrannical. It was much more dazzling, causing many cultivators on the streets to not dare to look at it directly. There were even a total of 8 dragon beasts. "Father, you even changed this carriage?" Dongbo Shuiying sat on the carriage with Ying Shan Lai Hu sitting by the side. The carriage was huge, and it was very spacious for 2 people to sit on. Tian Yi, the 9 personal guards, 2 black stream cloud wolves, the female attendant Yin, and the servants and protectors of Ying Shan Lai who were all on the carriage. "Huh, my son is the famous Ying Shan Snow Eagle. How can I sit on an ordinary carriage?" Ying Shan Lai Hu winked at Dongbo Shuiying with delight. "After buying this carriage, I still owe quite a lot of cosmos crystals, but I'm in no rush to repay them. Naturally, if my son is willing to help me repay them, that would be even better." Dongbo Shuiying caressed the black stream cloud wolf lying by his side. He no longer looked at his father. Ying Shan Lai Hu did not care when he saw that. He laughed out loud. Go, let's go to the misty cloud pavilion." "Ho!" the 8 dragon beasts roared. The luxurious carriage arced through the sky and headed towards the misty cloud pavilion. "Go in the misty cloud pavilion?" Dongbo Shuiying was startled. Tian Yi, the female attendant Yin, and the other protectors and servants could not help but turn to Ying Shan Lai Hu. "Bringing his son to visit the misty cloud pavilion? I have to experience it," Ying Shan Lai Hu said. "My son hasn't been there before, right? That is the biggest entertainment ground in the Ardent Fire City. My son has cultivated for 5 million years, and he should have seen everything." Dongbo Shuiying chuckled. He did not say anything else. "Ooh, Prince Snow Eagle, Blackstream Cloud Wolf? Prince Snow Eagle is on it? That lucky Ying Shan Lai who is bringing along Prince Snow Eagle." Everywhere they passed, there would be all sorts of discussions. Some who were more knowledgeable could still recognize Snow Eagle. Hearing the discussions, Ying Shan Lai who sat on the carriage laughed even more happily. Glorious, truly glorious. Very soon, they arrived at the Misty Cloud Pavilion. Sir Lai Hu, the attendants of the Misty Cloud Pavilion, came to welcome them with great familiarity. They could see a white-robed, handsome young man seated beside Ying Shan Lai Hu on the carriage. That handsome young man was gentle like jade, though they could not help but feel their hearts trembling when they saw him. "Prince Snow Eagle?" They were stunned. "Prince Snow Eagle is here. Quick, Prince Snow Eagle is here." News spread rapidly within the Misty Cloud Pavilion. The entire place was in an uproar. This was a huge matter. Even though the Misty Cloud Pavilion was extraordinary, what kind of status did Prince Snow Eagle have? He was destined to become a conferred marquis at the Primal Chaos realm. He would be ranked in the top 3 across the entire Ardent Fire City. The Southern Cloud's Sacred Palace Hall master, Chun Yue, did not dare to slight him. After all, Chun Yue was merely relying on his clan. He was still at the Unity realm. Who would dare to slight someone who was destined to become a conferred marquis? "I've waited for 1,000 to 10,000 years, and my eyes are getting tired from waiting. Finally, I can see Prince Snow Eagle." The plump pavilion master Chun Yufeng flew over like a gust of wind. He was incredibly passionate. "Chun Yufeng, since my son is here today, all the expenses here will be paid by you," Ying Shan Lai Hu said loudly. Rest assured, everything will be paid by me." Chun Yufeng laughed until the fat on his old face was trembling. Dongbo Shuiying also chuckled and replied with a few simple sentences. Everyone was personally escorted by Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng into a huge palace hall. Under Chun Yufeng's arrangement, peerless beauties with innate charm that had never been touched by a man had already entered the stage and started to sing and dance. "Follow me, and I'll definitely not treat you badly. Here, take it first." Within that enormous palace hall, there were already many aristocratic clan disciples present. An aristocratic clan disciple was currently throwing a bag of cosmos crystals to the armored girl in front of him. That cold girl received this bag of cosmos crystals. She felt relatively excited in her heart. She had finally succeeded in relying on an aristocratic clan disciple as a guest. In the future, her days would be better, and her children would have resources to cultivate. Congratulations, Prince, for accepting another formidable female guest. The beauties by the side flattered. Ha! This aristocratic clan disciple laughed out loud. Suddenly, he looked to the distance with slight astonishment. At the entrance of the palace hall, Pavilion Master Chun Yufeng was incomparably passionate as he led the way. Ying Lai, who was carefree. Behind Ying Lai, who was a handsome, white-robed young man with two black-string cloud wools by his side. There was also a gray-robed old man coldly following by the side. Prince Snow Eagle, this aristocratic clan disciple, jumped in fright. His sitting posture became more reserved. Everyone be more careful. Don't offend that white-robed young man. This aristocratic clan disciple softly ordered the surrounding servants and protectors. If his subordinates were to offend the other party, he would be out of luck. Master, who is he? A favored female attendant softly asked. The female guest was curious too because she discovered that the arrogant aristocratic clan disciples in the palace hall were much more reserved now. That is Prince Snow Eagle. Have you heard of him before? He is different from us. We aristocratic clan disciples are just idling around, but he is someone who is going to become a conferred marquis. Prince Snow Eagle? The female attendant and the female guest immediately understood. That handsome white-robed young man was the legendary Snow Eagle Prince of Fire City. Under the escort of Chun Yufeng and the others, including some aristocratic clan disciples with slightly higher statuses, Dongbua Shui Ying and his father finally sat at the host's seat of the entire palace hall to enjoy the dance. The Misty Cloud Pavilion occupied a huge area. Within a residence, the plump male Qiangan Shui had always been staying here. His current most important mission was to assassinate that Snow Eagle Prince. If Snow Eagle Prince did not come out, he could only wait. After waiting for 5 million years, he was at a loss. How long would this Snow Eagle Prince take before he came out? Did he only know how to cultivate? Lord, Prince Snow Eagle is currently in the Misty Cloud Pavilion. His subordinate immediately transmitted the news. What? Qiangan Shui was greatly shocked. He came out, and he was even in the Misty Cloud Pavilion? I have to act immediately. Qiangan Shui's heart was racing. He was thinking rapidly. He understood that he had to grab hold of this opportunity. Otherwise, who knew when this Snow Eagle Prince would come out again after returning to the marquisdom? I must not panic. This assassination must succeed. Qiangan Shui's gaze turned cold. If he failed, he would die miserably. Hence, no matter how anxious he was, he had to think calmly. The plan had to be foolproof. Fortunately, he had made ample preparations. After pondering for a moment, he immediately gave the order to mobilize his subordinates. The operation was about to begin. Chapter 1029. Within a private room on the second floor of a restaurant that was slightly closer to the Misty Cloud Pavilion, good wine and dishes were placed on the table. Only Qiangan Shui was seated here. His plump body sat on a chair. It was rare that he did not bring along any beautiful female attendants. As he drank, he was looking outside the window. His gaze was focused in the direction of the Misty Cloud Pavilion. He was clear how important this assassination plan was. At least to him, it would decide his life and death. He would not allow himself to fail. I only have this one chance. If I fail this time, the entire Yingshan clan will be infuriated. It is impossible for me to find a second chance. Master will not give me another chance either. Qiangan Shui thought. Jia, the door to the private room, was pushed open. A thin teenager walked in. This thin teenager had a faint aura of Unity Realm. He held a short blade in his hand. He was casually playing with it. When Qiangan Shui saw who came, his eyes brightened. He immediately stood up and greeted with a fawning tone, Brother Nian. Amen. The thin teenager casually sat down. The operation will begin in a while. Ever since I accepted this mission of yours, I have stayed in this ardent fire city for 5 million years. Brother Nian, you have worked hard. Currently, that brat is within the Misty Cloud Pavilion. Qiangan Shui said, Chun Yufeng, Ying Shan Lai Hu, and the others are accompanying that brat. The moment he comes out, it will be time for us to act. The entire place was isolated from the outside world. The conversation here could not be heard from the outside world. The thin teenager nodded. Rest assured. By then, I'll just kill that Shan Snow Eagle. Brother Nyen, this matter concerns the life of this little brother. I'll have to rely on Brother Nyen. Qingan Shui could not help but say, I don't care about your life. Just remember to pay me 12 million cosmos crystals after the mission is completed. The thin teenager said. Qingan Shui nodded. Definitely. The core of his plan this time was to invite this terrifying assassin from the Black Devil Great Lake, Nian Jiao. He had to pay 8 million cosmos crystals to invite him. If the assassination failed, everything else could be forgotten. After the mission was completed, he would have to pay another 12 million cosmos crystals. In other words, this Nian Jiao alone would have to pay 20 million cosmos crystals if he succeeded. And in reality, Qingan Shui only had slightly more than 15 million cosmos crystals in total. For this assassination plan, he had already spent all the money. The 8 million cosmos crystals that he had paid in advance, as well as other means of preparation, had all been spent. He had even used up some of his own savings. If he succeeded, he would need to use up his own savings to make up for it. He even had to borrow some universe crystals from his master's companions. As long as the assassination plan succeeds, everything will be worth it. If Master is happy, he might even give me a great reward. Qingan Shui thought to himself. Time continued to flow. 2 hours, 4 hours. The sky gradually darkened. Qingan Shui drank with Nian Jiao, and neither of them spoke much. Nian Jiao looked outside. We're out. Qingan Shui's body trembled as he stared outside the window at the group of people coming out of the misty cloud pavilion. Among them was a handsome youth in white who was being surrounded. What a handsome little fellow. His own strength is not worth mentioning. I can easily crush him to death. Even Marquis Ardenfire would most likely have prepared many methods to protect him. Unfortunately, he's dead now that I've made a move. Nian Jiao stood up and took a step out of the window. He landed on the street outside and walked leisurely as if he was an ordinary cultivator amongst the many cultivators on the street. Qingan Shui held his breath nervously. The moment that would decide his fate had arrived. Everyone, prepare yourselves. The moment he arrives, we'll act. Qingan Shui transmitted. 8 dragon beasts pulled that luxurious carriage across the sky. Ying Shan Lai, who was incomparably proud as he sat on the carriage with his son, Tian Yi, the female attendant Yin Yu, and the others were standing by the side. The protectors and female attendants were also waiting by the side. The speed of the carriage was fast. My son, this misty cloud pavilion is different, right? Haha, this is also the first time I brought you here. There are still many interesting things that I haven't brought you to try. Ying Shan Lai who chuckled. In the future, my son can come here by himself. He was a cultivator, after all. He should have seen everything. You should experience the beauties and skeletons too. This is also considered cultivating the heart. Sir Lai who, Tian Yi muttered from the side. Ying Shan Lai who was slightly startled. He awkwardly answered Tian Yi. Elder Tian, I was just saying, the mortal dust refinement of the heart is not wrong, right? At this moment, Ying Shan Lai who felt so much regret that he wanted to slap his own mouth, because the words he said would most likely be reported up to Grandpa Marquis by Tian Yi. Dongbua Shui Ying merely listened. He remained indifferent. Suddenly, he glanced at a distant restaurant with slight astonishment. Ever since he comprehended the domain technique from the profound mysteries within the spear body, his control of the void had reached an amazing level. Even during ordinary times, he could naturally sense anything within a certain region, and he discovered a familiar person. Qingan Shui? Dongbua Shui Ying saw a plump male seated by the window of that restaurant. That plump male was currently looking at him. When Dongbua Shui Ying looked over, Qingan Shui even revealed a smile. Dongbua Shui Ying no longer cared about him. Because of the matter regarding the female attendant Yin Yu, He had ordered people to investigate. He knew that this Qiangan Shui was someone who did some shady business. There was no need to care about such a character. Suddenly, the surrounding void suddenly trembled. The vast region was being suppressed. Not good. Tian Yiji was greatly alarmed. He immediately transmitted, "Be careful. The surrounding void is being suppressed. We can't teleport." What? Ying Shanlai, who panicked at that moment. Xiao! Xiao! Two continuous streams of light shot out from the crowd of cultivators on the street below. Tian Yiji and the 9 personal guards had formed silver armor on their bodies with great proficiency. The armor shone, forming a silver sphere that enveloped the carriage where Dongboi Shui Ying was at. Tian Yiji and the others rapidly defended against the 2 streams of light and the diffusing poisonous fog. Break. The void trembled. Assassination? They actually dare to assassinate my son? Ying Shanlai, who paled. He was slightly panicking. Even though he had protectors, they were far weaker than the protectors of Dongboi Shuang. Father, there's an assassin trying to assassinate Snow Eagle. Ying Shanlai, who rarely transmitted a message to Marquis Ardent Fire. Usually, he would not dare to disturb Marquis Ardent Fire. Nonetheless, Marquis Ardent Fire had already received the transmission from Tian Yiji. Even though Marquis Ardent Fire was furious, the Marquis Dom was very far from this place. Even if he could teleport, there was a limit to how far he could teleport, and it would take the time taken to brew a cup of tea to rush over. Even if he rushed over, teleportation would be suppressed in the surroundings. He had to fly over, and it would be hard for him to save his son. How dare you? A furious roar reverberated in the world. World energy surged. Boundless world energy was madly condensing. It gradually condensed into a figure. It was none other than the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire. But because it was condensed from the world energy, it required some time. Marquis Ardent Fire, there is no need for you to take out an incarnation. Following that, a laughter reverberated in the world. A thin young man flew into the sky and clashed against the enormous silvery white light sphere formed by Tian Yiji and the 9 personal protectors. At the moment of impact, the thin young man split into 6. A total of 6 thin young men erupted with a frightening aura. Every single one of them was not any weaker than the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire. Almost instantaneously, the combat formation formed by Tian Yiji and the others was shattered. Prince, be careful. Tian Yiji was anxious. All right, not far away. The plump male Qiangan Shui, who was watching the battle from the restaurant, could not help but clench his fists. His fingertips pierced into his flesh. His emotions surged. He is indeed old Devil Nian. Chapter 1030. It's Nianjiao. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire, who is currently condensing, felt his heart trembling when he saw that. He could not help but grit his teeth. Who is so daring to become enemies with my Ying Shan clan? Daring to assassinate the talented Snow Eagle Prince was akin to slapping the face of the Ying Shan clan. The Ying Shan clan would definitely not let this matter rest. Under normal circumstances, not many superpowers would be so foolish. But now, an assassination had happened, and there was even this devil Nianjiao. Nianjiao was originally a 9-headed devil, snake-born, and bred within the Black Devil Great Lake. Because of the ancient cultivation technique, he had the avatar talent, allowing him to form a total of 9 avatars. As long as one avatar survived, the other 8 avatars would be able to cultivate back after dying. Hence, relying on this avatar talent, Nianjiao would frequently become an assassin. After all, there were not many experts who would risk their lives to assassinate others. They were either death warriors or experts like Nianjiao, who had unique techniques. Protect the prince. The 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves immediately transformed into a human form. Furthermore, 98 black-armored soldiers appeared around them. These 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves transformed into a human form. One of them was still wearing black armor, and the other had a dark golden armor. There were 100 of them, and they immediately formed a huge combat formation. Hong Long Long. The surrounding black clouds revolved around the carriage at the center, and 100 soldiers were scattered within the black clouds. All of their armor shone brightly, and their strength was completely linked as one. You actually dared to assassinate Snow Eagle Prince. Such guts. The leading dark golden armored captain revealed a sharp claw weapon with both hands. He roared out furiously, and his voice reverberated in the world. Ardent Fire Army Hidden Guards? Who would have thought that one of the Ardent Fire Army's 3 secret guard teams would actually be protecting this little brat? The 6 skinny youths laughed heartily as they charged forward. Let me see how powerful you all are. Kill. The dark golden armored captain roared out. The rolling black clouds vaguely turned into an enormous 4-hooved mutated beast. The dark golden armored captain was like the claws of the 4-hooved mutated beast. Every single attack he made was incredibly violent. What? There's actually a team of dark guards from the Ardent Fire Army protecting the Shan Snow Eagle? Qian Gan Shui, who was watching the battle from a restaurant far away, paled in anger. Isn't he being too biased? How could he let those shadow guard captains wait in the heavenly abode? This was the worst possible situation. A team of hidden guards. The leader of the secret guards was at God Yuan Palace level 5, while the other members were at the Unity Realm. Fusing with the entire combat formation, it could unleash a strength at the God Yuan Palace 7th level. It could even fight against some of the weaker primal chaos giants. Ying Shanlai, who felt his legs turning soft. He even consoled Donghua, Shuiying by the side. My son, rest assured, they can't harm you. Maid Yinyu also clenched her fists, ready to risk her life for her young master at any moment. In reality, they were only true gods. In a battle of this level, they were completely useless. In fact, regardless of whether it was the assassin old Devil Nianjiao, the hidden guard team led by the Black Stream Cloud Wolf captain, Tian Yi, Marquis Ardent Fire, or even that Devil Master who was constantly monitoring the situation of the assassination, all of them were extremely concerned. They felt their hearts tightening over the current situation. There was only one person. He might seem nervous on the surface, but in reality, he was extremely calm. That was none other than Donghua Shuiying. Assassination. Donghua Shuiying sat on the carriage watching. Oh, this assassin could instantly form 6 avatars. But he is merely at the Unity Realm. Yet he could form avatars. It shouldn't be an avatar technique of the Void lineage. Instead, it should be an ancient cultivation. But he is quite formidable. This assassin seems to have a God Yuan Palace 6th level strength by himself. 6 avatars even have a combined technique, allowing them to unleash a strength at the God Yuan Palace 7th level. So one of my 2 Blackstream Cloud Wolves is the leader of the Hidden Guards, and the other is an ordinary Hidden Guard. And the other 98 Hidden Guards have always been waiting for orders within the Eden Treasure. Marquis Ardent Fire really regards me highly. Donghua Shuiying sighed inwardly. I have always thought that Elder Tian and the others are protectors. Who would have thought that one is in the light and the other in the dark? Elder Tian is leading 9 personal guards, and they only have a God Yuan Palace 6th level strength. An entire team of hidden guards is even stronger. One in the light and one in the dark. Donghua Shuiying continued watching the battle between the team of hidden guards and Devil Nianjiao. Both parties were frantically assassinating each other, and old Devil Nianjiao could not break through for a short while. The cultivation techniques in the Realm Heart Great Land are indeed more profound. This combat formation is much more profound than that in the Primal Chaos Void. In the Primal Chaos Void, a 5th level Star Pagoda Unity expert working together with 99 other Unity experts. It was impossible for them to unleash the strength of the 7th floor of Star Tower. But the Realm Heart Great Land could do it. These combat formation techniques in the Realm Heart Great Land were simply more profound than the innate combined technique of the Destruction Devils. Qingan Shui. Who would have thought that there's an entire team of hidden guards protecting you at all times? I can't break through it. This mission will most likely fail. Nianzhou transmitted to Qian Shui. No. Qian Shui's eyes turned red. He mobilized his subordinates to arrange for death warriors, but in reality, he did not care about the price to find old devil Nianzhou and invite him to act. This was his most important trump card. Who would have thought that old devil Nianzhou could not break through even after unleashing his God Yuan Palace 7th level strength? This old devil Nianzhou is too cowardly. I've heard that he has 9 avatars, yet he would only use 6 avatars every time he assassinates someone. I wonder where the other 3 avatars are hiding at. Qian Shui's eyes were filled with madness. I can't care anymore. If I fail, I'll die. I'll risk it. Even though Qian Shui had placed most of his hopes on the powerful old devil Nianzhou, he would still die if he failed. He had prepared another killing move, which he spent more than 2 million years before he finally found a primal chaos giant to help him refine the venom. For the sake of a single portion of venom, he spent 6 million cosmos crystals. One had to know that some of the most ordinary secret treasures were only worth 10 million cosmos crystals. Those who came into contact with these cosmos crystals would almost certainly die. As long as they were at the Unity Realm, few could defend against it. Old devil Nianzhou, it might affect you, but since you have an avatar, it's fine. Qian Shui took out a black flute and lightly blew it. Wong, an unseen sound ripple immediately spread in the direction of Dongbua Shuang. This sound ripple was a strange pale green in color. The color of this venom could be seen with the naked eye. No choice, it had to be sufficiently powerful and undetectable. The amount of cosmos crystals he prepared was not enough. What? The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire had just condensed. He was currently working together with the Hidden Guards to deal against old devil Nianzhou. When he saw the pale green sound ripple coming over, his expression could not help but change. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire did not have any treasures or weapons. It merely had a God Yuan Palace 6th level strength and could barely be compared to an avatar of old devil Nianzhou. It could not affect the overall situation at all. Venom. Old devil Nianzhou revealed a joyous look when he saw this. Not good. The Hidden Guards felt their hearts jolting. They could feel a great terror coming from this pale green sound ripple venom. If they were to come into contact with this venom, they would most likely die. Hong Pu, the surroundings boomed. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire and the Hidden Guards were diverting their attention to attack that venom. Nonetheless, they could not isolate the venom at all. The venom continued spreading over. After all, it was a venom worth 6 million cosmos crystals. What should we do? The speed of the sound ripple venom was too fast, and it could not be teleported. Unless they were to escape and ignore the prince. Haha! Old devil Nianzhou wantonly attacked the Hidden Guards, yet he was laughing out loud. In his opinion, without the obstruction of this Hidden Guard, that Snow Eagle Prince was incomparably weak. It was too easy to kill him. What should we do? What should we do? The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire was incredibly anxious. He had already transmitted a message to Old Mother Shan, yet Old Mother Shan could not rush over in a short period. She had to seek the help of a primal chaos giant who specialized in ultra-long distance teleportation. All sorts of matters would require time. And in the blink of an eye, a battle at this level had occurred hundreds to thousands of times. Do not spare any effort to obstruct the enemy. Try to delay for as long as possible. As time goes on, there will be hope. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire transmitted to the Hidden Guards. Yes, of all the Hidden Guards, some were willing and some were unwilling, yet they still acknowledged the order. They did not dare to disobey the orders of Grandpa Marquis. They had to use their lives to fight, to resist against this strange venom and delay for as long as they could. On the carriage, Shan Lai Hu and the female attendant Yin were in a daze. They did not understand what was happening on the battlefield. They only knew that the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire was fighting with all the Hidden Guards. The Hidden Guards had all gone mad, and they felt a kind of sorrow. Dongbua Shuang was the only one who was calm. He looked to the distance at Qiangan Shui, who was blowing the black flute. This venom is slightly interesting. It seems powerful, and ordinary attacks can't scatter it. Dongbua Shuang thought. A spear appeared in his hand. It was that secret treasure weapon. Following that, an unseen ripple spread out. This ripple was very subtle, and it permeated everywhere. Go! The space with a pale green sound ripple venom was distorted. It was clearly flying in the direction of Dongbua Shuang, yet in the blink of an eye, it arrived by the side of Qiangan Shui. What? Qiangan Shui looked at the pale green venom in front of him with terror. This venom did not differentiate between friend and foe. He controlled the flute to control its direction. Who? Under the influence of the venom, Qiangan Shui's body was corroded, turning into a puddle of green water. He died on the spot. Even though the venom permeated the surroundings, it was fortunate that there was no one around. Those cultivators, including the guests and attendants, had already escaped far away. After all, a battle of this level was something that cultivators would do their best to distance themselves from. Even if they were 50,000 kilometers away, they would not feel safe. At a distant location on the wide street, a black-robed man was watching from afar. He was none other than the incarnation of that devil master. He relied on a treasure to conceal his aura and lived in seclusion in the Ardent Fire City. Given his hatred towards Marquis Ardent Fire, his incarnation was here to find an opportunity to deal against Marquis Ardent Fire. This Qiangan Shui is still quite useful. He actually prepared such a venom. The edge of the black-robed man's lips curled upwards. Following that, his expression changed. That pale green, sound ripple venom actually twisted strangely towards the side of Qiangan Shui, causing him to die. The black-robed man even felt that the space seemed normal. There's actually an expert protecting that snow eagle prince? Isn't the Ying clan putting in too much effort for the sake of protecting him? The black-robed man could not help but grit his teeth. Chapter 10:31. The black-robed devil master gritted his teeth. His eyes were cold. Seeing how anxious the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire was, Marquis Ardent Fire would definitely go mad if he succeeded in killing that little brat, Yingshan Snow Eagle. The expert protecting Yingshan Snow Eagle in the dark was able to crack the venom without anyone noticing. Is he really powerful, or does he just happen to be able to restrain the venom? Many thoughts flashed across the mind of the black-robed demon master. I'd better stick to the original plan. Odd to act. Yes. The black-robed devil master silently gave the order. He coldly looked to the distance. Even though he asked Qiangan Shui to assassinate Yingshan, he had never placed all his hopes on Qiangan Shui. Instead, he prepared his final trump card. Let me see who exactly is protecting him in the dark. The black-robed devil master sneered inwardly. In the entire Ardent Fire City, even Marquis Ardent Fire's true body could not make it in time. Who could obstruct my magic servant? And on the carriage in midair, Yingshan Lai, who panicked to the point his body was trembling. Tian Yiji, who retreated to the side, anxiously transmitted to Dongbua Shuang. Prince, this poison is frightening. If the hidden guards can't resist against it, I'll immediately keep you in my Eden treasure and flee for your life. Hopefully, you can hold on until the experts invited by old Mother Yingshan arrive. In a while, don't resist. Even though she was transmitting, Tian Yiji was looking to the distance with shock. Not just him. Many hidden guards and protectors present had a kind of resolution. The resolution to fight to the death for their prince. They had people they cared about, and they were not really willing to face death. But since they chose to rely on Marquis Ardent Fire, they rarely met any danger and enjoyed the help of resources. Hence, when danger came, they had to stand out. Those who dared to escape would definitely not be let off by the Yingshan clan. The surrounding atmosphere was slightly sorrowful and mad. All of them were gritting their teeth as they watched the faint green sound ripple poison flying over from the black flute. Come, let's risk it. Good daughter, I can no longer accompany you. These hidden guards were fighting with old devil Nianjiao while paying attention to the poison. But the poison suddenly appeared by the side of Qiangan Shui, causing him to die. How could this be? Everyone present was overjoyed at having escaped from the brink of death, but at the same time, they were in disbelief. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire was also watching with disbelief at this scene. Because the minute spatial distortion controlled by Donghua Shui only affected the region where the venomous liquid was located. It did not affect the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire at all. Hence, the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire did not discover where the problem lay. Ha ha, my son, there are experts protecting you in the dark. My Yingshan clan really has many experts. Yingshan Lai, who felt great joy when he saw this. Yes, there's also a mysterious great expert. Tian Yiji was also excited. We still have experts. The morale of all the hidden guards and bodyguards present was greatly boosted. Shuang sat there with a look of joy on his face. Such a formidable expert. I wonder who he is. There was no other way. He was only born 5 million years ago, yet he was able to display the strength of the divine Yuan Palace Level 8. After all, that simple domain-type technique was already at the 8th level. This completely exceeded the scope of a genius. If he were to be exposed, Donghua Shui was afraid of attracting the attention of some horrifying old fellows in Realm Heart Great Land. After all, reincarnation was something Donghua Shui suspected he was not the only one who did it. Hence, it was better to be cautious. This move of distorting the void was like a street that was originally straight. Donghua Shui then warped this street to another street. As the venomous liquid traveled on the street, it naturally followed the warped street and entered the other street. Similar logic. The surrounding void had been controlled by Donghua Shui to distort and become chaotic. Moving from this direction would naturally lead him to another direction. It might seem like teleportation, but in reality, it was entirely different. Teleportation relied on the transmission of spatial ripples. And this was a technique that altered the entire spatial structure. This technique was incredibly formidable. Donghua Shui had just comprehended it, yet it was already at the primal chaos realm. Of course, it was also because of his deep accumulations. His Tao of Void had reached the primal chaos realm in the laws and profound mystery system, and his eyesight, which allowed him to rapidly comprehend this move from the spear body of this damaged secret treasure weapon. If it were others, even those void lineage experts who relied on their bloodline to reach the primal chaos realm would have a hard time comprehending this technique when facing this spear body. Naturally, Donghua Shui did not feel proud at all. Instead, he admired the refiner of this spear body. I have merely comprehended the tip of the iceberg. This spear body isn't even a complete secret treasure. Donghua Shui thought, I really wonder who the original owner of this spear body is. Saying it was slow, but the mental state of Donghua Shui only lasted for an instant. All the surrounding protectors, including the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire, were feeling joyous. Right at this moment, a pavilion not too far away suddenly exploded. A humanoid life form turned into a stream of light and charged over. Previously, its aura was completely concealed, and no one could sense it. But at this moment, its aura was completely unleashed. In an instant, its aura became so strong that it became the strongest existence present. It was even stronger than the 100 hidden guards. It was even stronger than old devil Nianjiao, who executed the combined technique. It had a pair of inverted joints and a pair of long arms similar to that of a gorilla. Its entire body was covered in scales, and it had a single deep green eye. Nianjiao worked together with a magic servant to kill that snow eagle prince. After this matter is done, I'll hand over the remaining 12 million cosmos crystals. A transmission was transmitted over to old devil Nianjiao. Old devil Nianjiao was in great joy. Only now did he know that behind Qiangan Shui was this great devil. Palace Master, you can be rest assured. Old Devil Nianjiao's fighting spirit shot to the sky. Being a relatively famous assassin in the Black Devil Great Lake, he naturally recognized this Great Devil of the Black Devil Great Lake. Even though the gap between their statuses was huge, he had avatar techniques and was not afraid. Not good. On the other side, the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire had a huge change in expression as he watched the humanoid life form charging over. Magic Servant Chao Qing? The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire recognized him. Under the berserk state of this magic servant, its frontal charge was beyond that of Old Devil Nianjiao. He and Old Devil Nianjiao worked together and almost instantly broke through the defensive formation formed by the Dark Guards. The Dark Guards were sent flying in all directions and were unable to stop them. Be it Old Devil Nianjiao or Demon Servant Chao Qing, they did not pursue the Dark Guards. They only had one goal, young Master Snow Eagle. Demonic Servant Chao Qing? He is truly willing. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire rushed forward. Scram! The magic servant roared out with a claw, causing the void to explode. The incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire directly shattered apart. At that moment, the eyes of the incarnation of Marquis Ardent Fire were filled with unwillingness and fury, as well as an apology towards that Ying Snow Eagle, who could not resist at all on the carriage. Snow Eagle, it is I, Ardent Fire, who is useless. Marquis Ardent Fire felt his heart aching. Whoosh whoosh. Magic Servant Chao Qing and Old Devil Nianjiao's 6 clones charged over at the same time. Donghua Shui Ying sat on the carriage with a spear in his hand. He remained calm and said, Demon Servant? According to the scriptures, this should be the magic servant Chao Qing, right? The refinement of puppets in the Realm Heart Great Land was much more profound. Magic servant Chao Qing was a fleshy life-form puppet that was loyal and devoted. Being a puppet, if its master wanted it to die, it would do its best to die. Magic servant Chao Qing was considered one of the lower end amongst the fleshy life-form puppets at the Primal Chaos Realm. Some powerful cosmos gods specialized in refining it and selling it to the outside world. Magic servant Chao Qing had a God Yuan Palace 6th level strength during normal times. If he ignited the energy he accumulated, he could unleash a God Yuan Palace 7th level strength. But every time he unleashed it, his vitality would be greatly damaged. After that, he would have to be fed with rare treasures to recover his strength. Furthermore, he could even self-detonate, increasing his power by several times. Because he was ultimately a magic servant, he was lacking in terms of realm. He specialized more in pure strength. Only when magic servant Chao Qing and Old Devil Nianjiao worked together could they break through the obstruction of the Dark Guards. Prince, you should escape first. I'll block them. Tian Yi and the 9 personal guards behind her had already formed a combat formation. My son, hurry up and escape. I'll risk my life against him. Ying Shanlai, who felt his eyes splitting apart. Donghua Shuang looked at his father with slight shock. He had never had a good impression of this father. But at this moment, Donghua Shuang was truly surprised. How could he understand the thoughts of Ying Shanlai who? At this moment, Ying Shanlai was furious. He was the second son of Marquis Ardent Fire. When Marquis Ardent Fire had him, Marquis Ardent Fire was still weak. Ying Shanlai had a weak bloodline. He had once worked hard, yet it was hard to improve. He felt despair. Hence, he immersed himself in enjoyment. Marquis Ardent Fire asked for a marriage for him, and he accepted it with a smile. That wife of his, Chan Yu Yin Jun, had begun arranging subordinates to control the resources under his name. How could he not know? But he accepted it with a smile. He was too lazy to care about these. He enjoyed himself to his heart's content. Even though he had many women and over 300 children, he did not care about them. Only those children who were strong and talented would be given a slight look. In his heart, he hoped that one of his children could rise and become dazzling. So many years had passed. Even though he, Ying Shanlai, led a befuddled life outside, he understood that many aristocratic clan disciples looked down on him. Because he was too weak. He was just a true god. If not for him being the son of Marquis Fire, he would most likely be a commoner. He had always been looked down upon. Finally, there was a day when his son, Ying Snow Eagle, was born. The moment he was born, it shocked the entire world. Marquis Fire and even Old Mother Ying Shan attached great importance to it. Many people in the entire Fire city were shocked. From then on, nobody dared to disrespect Ying Shan Lai Hu when they saw him. Ying Shan Lai Hu loved this feeling of being respected. Even though he felt that his son did not like him and had never given him any cosmos crystals, he did not care. I, Ying Shan Lai Hu, have a son called Ying Shan Snow Eagle. I can die, but my son can't. Ying Shan Lai Hu seemed mad. Dongbua Shuiying sat there, seeing old devil Nian Jiao and magic servant Chao Qing rushing over like streams of light. The gaze of Dongbua Shuiying turned cold. Hong, the void in the surrounding 500,000 kilometers suddenly distorted. It was a scene of apocalypse. This distorted void naturally enveloped everyone present, including magic servant Chao Qing and the 6 great avatars of old devil Nian Jiao. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.